Yesterday. Today, we'll go middle and upper 50s. That's a bit more typical for this time of the year. Of course, it is a cold start, though, as you're stepping out the door. I'll take you to I-269 at the Coldwater River Bridge. This is in Marshall County, and you see the sunshine out there this morning, so great start to your day. Leachville in Mississippi County, Arkansas, you're at 35 degrees. Nutbush, Haywood County, Tennessee at 25. Coldwater in Independent and Tate County as you're starting off. And for our friends in Independence as well, they're also in Tate County, Mississippi. Sunshine 25, the current temperature. And again, it's a quick turnaround here today. We're going to add, for some of us, 20, maybe almost 30, 25 to almost 30 degrees of temperatures here today. Middle to upper 50s expected across the board as we roll through the day. So expect a lot of sunshine to come around the Mid-South here today. 20s and 30s early on. By lunchtime, we should be in the low 50s, and then we'll work our way towards those middle and upper 50s by the end of the day. I will also mention, after about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon, probably going to be watching some clouds moving in across the Mid-South. It's actually a little disturbance out to the west of us that's going to start to move in our direction. But it's in and out of here fairly quickly. We'll call it partly cloudy tonight, down through the 30s starting off tomorrow morning. But those 30s are the launch point for 60s for your Tuesday, near 70 by Wednesday as warm winds come in off the Gulf of Mexico. And then by Thursday, still warm, middle and upper 60s that day, but we'll also be adding in some opportunities for rain with our next system. Give you a first alert to that next system. The hiccup in between of all the great warm weather that we're going to see. So if you're a fan of spring, I think the next 7 days, at least the next 7 days, will be generally your speed. I think really even the next, let's say 10 days, your speed as well. Area of low pressure developing out west of us. This is Thursday morning. We'll probably stay dry for the morning commute on Thursday, but rain will start to gradually increase during the afternoon, late morning, early afternoon hours. I think we just turn wet by sunset on Thursday, and the rain starts to exit by early Friday morning. So good news is that it's in and out of here fairly quickly, but you'll have the hiccup of Thursday to tangle with as we head through that time frame. I think through Friday, about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of rainfall across the Mid-South of rainfall. That's good news. We still need the rain. Remember, we're still running a general deficit and a general drought across the area from what we had to deal with back during the latter portion of summer into fall of 2023, and it just kind of perpetuated itself, and we're just trying to keep up and even try to advance ourselves a little bit here over the course of the last couple of weeks, it seems like, because it's been pretty consistent that we've had these storm systems coming in every 2, 3, 4 days on the pipe, coming down the pipeline. In the meantime, though, again, this is early on Thursday morning. Yeah, there may be a couple of showers moving across portions of eastern Arkansas, but the bulk of the rain moves in after lunchtime. I think we'll have some pockets of heavy downpours in a couple spots, maybe a few rumbles of thunder as well. But you'll notice those temperatures coming down after midnight, down through the 40s to start off early on Friday morning. And from there, rebounding upper 50s close to 60 with sunshine returning for your Friday. And if you're a fan of those warmer temperatures, again, you get a 70 here on Wednesday. You get another 70 coming up on Sunday. And I will tell you in that extended 10-day forecast that you can find on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app or on actionnews5.com, those 70s continue into next week. So if you're a fan of that, I think you can get behind this. You're also seeing some of the trees starting to bud a little bit. Some of the trees starting to get a couple of buds on their branches over the last couple of days, and I think that they'll probably have a good lift of that here in the next few, just because of the warmer temperatures that we do expect. So again, starting out pretty chilly, frosty this morning, but a seasonable afternoon. Our rebound from the morning 30s towards the 60s by the afternoon hours of your Tuesday. We'll add in a few more clouds, and the wind's getting a little bit aggressive out of the south and southwest around, say, 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusts around 30. We'll lean that into your Thursday with the off and on rain chances. Morning should be mostly dry. It's going to be the afternoon and evening that we see the better rain chances to contend with, maybe a few rumbles of thunder. But right now, not looking like severe weather. We'll watch it, but right now not looking like severe weather. 50s to near 60 on Friday, and we continue the upward trend, lower to middle 60s on Saturday, near 70 again by Sunday, Andrew.
That looks like a fantastic 7-day forecast. I mean, really does have that look of spring, Patrick.
Yes, we're about 30 days away from spring. So on the calendar, yes, still about a month away. But on the weather forecast, it looks like spring has sprung. I will caution you, though, and let you know, winter has a way of manifesting itself. especially when we have these longer stretches of warmer than average temperatures. I was mentioning this morning, is that, while I love to look at this forecast, looks great. Thursday, yeah, we get a little hiccup with some opportunities for rain and storms. At some point in time, the atmosphere is going to have to get itself back to a state of normalcy. This is above normal, okay? It's going to get back to a state of normalcy. How does it do that? To be seen at this point. But typically, this time of the year, you start looking at that potential for severe weather. We're talking, strong winds, lightning, thunder, those things. So I'm not saying it's going to be this week. May not even be next week. But at some point in time, there's going to be a reset. I just don't know when exactly. But typically this time of the year, that's when it happens. It's like when we have a long stretch of warm weather, you're going to have to reset it back to where you should be. And the question mark is, when does that happen? So we'll see how it plays out over the course of the next couple of weeks. But I would say probably by the time we head into early March, coming in like a lion, out like a lamb type of situation. Yeah. We'll see how that plays out. And it's like, let's hope that we don't have to deal with roaring lions at any point in time this spring. But, the saying, it tends to work out in that same vein, it seems like, as we get closer to the month of March.
Yeah, 100%. I can remember several snowfalls in March in Memphis. So yeah, no doubt winter can rear its ugly head. No question about it. Patrick, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, there's another live look from our High Five camera in Midtown. 30 degrees at 7:07. We're back in 60 seconds. Back here live in the Action News 5 digital desk, you're taking a look at our High Five camera where the sun is already up. It's still very chilly out there, 30 degrees. We'll be talking more about your forecast coming up in just a little bit. Right now, I want to talk about the correlation between a lack of sleep and depression. Take a look. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. How much sleep did you get? Did you get enough? Did you get too much? Did you maybe get enough but not enough so that you want to take a nap later in the day? Well, we know that sleep helps repair and restore our body and also restore our brain. It also affects our overall well-being. In fact, poor sleep quality has been linked to all kinds of instances of mental health issues like anxiety and depression. And there is a new poll out that examines the relationship between proper sleep and depressive symptoms. I want to bring in now sleep expert Dr. Joseph Dervesky. He is joining us on the digital desk. And doctor, it's good to see you. Did you get enough sleep this morning?
Well, I'm doing several of these interviews today, so my sleep might have been a little disrupted last night.
Yeah, well, I work in the mornings, and I'll tell you, sometimes I don't have the best schedule, and I'll need a nap later in the day. But I'm curious about this new poll. What did this new sleep poll find?
And so the National Sleep Foundation conducts an annual Sleep in America poll, the premier public poll that examines attitudes, behaviors, trends around sleep. And this year, marking our 25th anniversary of Sleep Awareness Week, our poll focused on sleep health and mental health. And the results were pretty striking. First, starting on a positive note, we found that over 90% of adults who have good sleep health also are free of significant depressive symptoms. However, nearly 7 out of every 10 adults who are dissatisfied with their sleep report mild or greater levels of depressive symptoms. Adults who have just 2 nights a week with difficulties falling asleep or staying asleep have higher levels of depressive symptoms. And 50% of adults who don't get the National Sleep Foundation recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night also have significant levels of depressive symptoms. So quite striking and strong relationship between sleep health and mental health.
Yeah, no question about that. No question about that, Doctor. I'm curious, though, because none of what you said surprises me. I'm just wondering, is there any differences from this year compared to last year?
Yeah, so this year, again, marking that 25th anniversary of Sleep Awareness Week, we really wanted our Sleep in America poll to focus on highly impactful topic. Given recent comments from the U.S. Surgeon General, statements by the National Institutes on Health, Centers for Disease Control, we thought that there couldn't be a more important time to focus on something like the link between our sleep health and mental health. In previous years, our poll focuses on sleep and other topics, whether that's bedroom environment, work productivity. This year, we really wanted to focus on the mental health connection.
You know, mental health has become a center stage issue that so many of us are talking about these days, coming out of this pandemic. And a lot of, when it comes to sleep, so much of our mental well-being really depends on the amount of sleep. Is that right?
Yeah, we like to think about sleep as a foundational, behavior through which we can live our best lives. So sleep health is connected to our, as I mentioned, mental health and well-being, our physical health, our social connectedness. It really touches every aspect of our lives. So getting that enough of the quality of sleep each night really sets the stage for everyone to be their best selves during the day.
So let's talk about some easy, simple steps to improve our sleep each and every night. We have thousands of people watching us, Doctor, and they're just tuning in, and they probably want to know, okay, tonight I want to get some really good sleep that's going to help me and my physical and mental being. What do I need to do?
Yeah, the National Sleep Foundation is committed to helping anyone and everyone be their best left self. Towards that goal, we recommend 6 small steps that everyone can take. 3 steps during the day and 3 steps at night. The 3 daytime steps include things like getting exposure to bright light, especially in the morning hours, becoming more physically active, getting exercise like several days a week, and eating your meals at consistent times each day. During the evening hours, we encourage everyone to refrain from alcohol, tobacco, and heavy meals before bedtime. We want everyone to enjoy a relaxing wind down routine that involves putting those electronic devices away about an hour before bed, and that also allows for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Prioritize your sleep. And finally, where you sleep also matters. Sleep in a sleep-friendly environment. Keep your room cool, keep it dark, keep it quiet. Importantly, our poll did show that people who engage in these healthy sleep behaviors, number 1, sleep better, and number 2, are also less likely to experience significant depressive symptoms. Now, we also know that there's more work that we can do because the average US adult only engages in about 60% of these behaviors across a typical week.
Okay, sleep expert Dr. Joseph Durjevsky. We really appreciate some of these guidelines here. Before we let you go, is there a place online where some of our viewers can get this information you talked about?
Yes, we'd love all your viewers to visit us online at theNSF.org. We've been the nation's trusted source for sleep-related information and sleep health-related information for over 30 years, so please visit us online.
Okay, appreciate it. Dr. Durjevsky, thanks so very much.
Thanks for having me.
Their 401k day is Friday, September 9th. Yeah, 401k day. That is what is designated for September 9th each and every year. And it's really kind of a good time to evaluate, are you doing the absolute best for your 401k? How does inflation affect your 401k? Are you saving enough? Should you be saving even more than that? Let's bring in an expert that we've talked with before, Tammy Trenta, founder and CEO of Family Financial. She joins us now on the Action News 5 digital desk. Good morning, Tammy. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you.
So where are we on 401ks with inflation? Should we be putting more into our 401ks? Should we be pulling back? Tell us the best advice or where people are making the biggest mistakes right now.
There's a lot of schools of thought on this. And, I think the tried and true approach is to always be saving. And because we never know what the future holds. So if you have an opportunity to save, the 401k can be a great solution. It's something that your employer provides. Oftentimes they give you a match, so it's free money, and it creates discipline. And I think that that's a real important point, because I think that the concept gets overthought a lot, and the idea of just having a good, predictable saving strategy is important. And I love that they devote a day to it so people can check in and people can evaluate where they are relative to their goals. So to answer your question regarding inflation, I don't want to speak for everyone, but generally there's been tremendous wage growth in the last few years. So inflation is just catching up now. And so if we have inflation, but we also have wage growth, it shouldn't really change the dynamic. If you're in a situation where you're making less money and your expenses are higher, well, then that is something that I think you need to just look and reevaluate and decide. But taking away from that, is basically paying yourself a future income down the road. And so why would you deprive yourself of that?
Excellent point, Tammy. I know that when it comes to employer matches, usually it's half up to 6%, or the companies that I've been to, it's 2% up to 6%, something like that, where you do get that free money. How much should you put in your 401k? I mean, obviously, it's one of those deals where put in as much as you can last with your budget. But is there like a hard and fast rule that you tell maybe some of your newer clients, maybe some other clients on there that are on a budget, in their life? I mean, how much should you put in there?
Well, remember, your 401k, if you save part of your paycheck into it, it's tax deductible. So you might, receive out of $100, $75 after pay, where you can save 25. So there's free money right there in the savings, and then there's the match. So if you have a 401k that provides a match, at a minimum, you want to take advantage of the match. Otherwise, you're just letting go of free money. If you have a 401k that doesn't match, then I still think that it makes sense to save for yourself. The percentage is really going to depend on someone's budget. I say a minimum of 10%, and, as much as you possibly can. For those people who are earning higher incomes, they should be maxing out. And, if it's about $20,000 this year, if you want to max out your 401k, and if you're over 50, it's, you get a $6,000 increase. So, there's definitely advantages. And the flip side of that, the IRS has now granted employers the ability to get a tax credit for starting up new 401ks for their employees. So, I think it's a great idea overall to, regardless of whether you're an employer or an employee, to devote some money to a saving strategy. And if the 401k is an option for you, I think it's a great option.
What about diversifying your investments? We hear a lot about Roths, Roth IRAs, that sort of thing. I mean, should that be something in addition to the 401k? Should there be instances where you go with a Roth IRA versus not going with one at all? Give us your best expertise opinion.
Well, I like to take advantage of any and all savings opportunities if one has the ability to do so. So if you qualify for a Roth, I recommend saving for a Roth. The Roth is a great vehicle. Some 401ks provide the option to do a Roth IRA. And whether that is advantageous is going to depend on what your tax rate is. If you're in a much lower tax rate, the Roth could be a good option. But for people in a higher tax bracket, I prefer the traditional Roth 401k.
What are the biggest mistakes you see people make in their professional career when it comes to 401ks and investing and trying to save for retirement?
Well, I work with a lot of business owners and what I see a lot is that employees don't really understand what the 401k is, why they have it. And if they're younger, I think that the idea that they can't access that money until they're much older is a deterrent. And so I think there's a general level of education that I would love to see us have as a society, whether it's the employer's responsibility to inform people of the importance of this benefit that they're offering their employees. So I don't think enough people take advantage of it. Some of the other pitfalls that I see is, there's been a lot of things over the years that have given people pause as to whether they want to invest in a 401k. One of those is, investing in company stock. Obviously, there's a difference between all the benefits of a 401k as an account versus versus being forced or wanting to invest in one particular company, which can be risky. So I prefer the idea of finding a diverse investment within the 401k offering. Another challenge sometimes is the lack of transparency in the fees that the 401ks cost and whether they're being billed to the employees. There is a annual fee disclosure that's now required by the Department of Labor so that employees know what the fees are for the 401k. But, without educating people, they don't even know to look for it. So yes, there are some challenges, but if you invest into the 401k and you have a diverse investment option, I would take advantage of that. And if you do get the fee schedule, I would look for things that have lower fees. You should be in some sort of stock strategy. So, don't go and select the cash option, especially now with inflation where it is. If you're close to retirement, maybe you pick something that has more bonds in it. But, as I said, I think that there's a general education level in what to invest in. And if there's an investment that is more stock heavy, that is a better option in the 401k than, maybe a cash or an all bond option.
Tammy, this has all been very interesting. Where can we go to get some more information as we lead up to 401k Day?
Well, I can be reached on LinkedIn. Tammy Trenta is my handle, and my company is familyfinancial.biz. So that's www.familyfinancial.biz.
Okay, Tammy Trenta, founder and CEO of Family Financial. We appreciate your time. Thanks for the insight.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. As families gather for the holidays, it's an ideal time to talk about how best to care for your loved ones and how to make their home comfortable and safe for years to come. It's an interesting topic, especially during this holiday season. Let's bring in two people who know it well, home renovation expert Ty Pennington and AARP's family and caregiving expert Amy Goyer. They're joining us to talk about the top home improvement ideas for older Americans and how to assess your loved one's need this holiday season. Good morning. How are you two?
Doing great.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to be here.
Appreciate you being here. So let's talk about how you begin this conversation, because it can be kind of tough at any time of year, especially during the holiday season. Amy, we'll begin with you.
Yes, I always say it's important to talk early and often because you want to talk about things when you're not in the middle of a crisis. Nobody can make decisions when you're in that. And also because your loved one's wishes may change over time. That's why it's important to revisit it often. What you talked about the holidays. The holidays might be a really good time to observe what's going on in your loved one's life. Are they safe in the home? What are their needs? What do they need some support with? And maybe have that conversation, or at least let's say you're talking about your aging parent. Maybe you're going to have that conversation with your siblings who are together for the holidays. As you do this, think about, if you want to have that conversation, who needs to be a part of that conversation? My grandmother my uncle was the person who she listened to on certain things. And so he always needed to be a part of that conversation. Maybe it's the lawyer or the doctor or somebody that, they feel comfortable with. And really talk to them about what the options are. What are the solutions? If we want you to stop driving, here's what how you're going to get around. If we think that you're having trouble with the stairs, here's what we are going to propose on how we're going to adjust that. We're going to get a stair lift, or we're going to move your bedroom down to the first floor. So have some really practical and solid solutions for them. And then, the other thing is to make sure that you approach this in a mode of love and concern. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
We all have the same goal. We want our loved ones to be as independent as possible for as long as possible. And, you're not here to tell them what to do. Use I statements. Don't say, you shouldn't be doing this. Ty's experienced this with his mom.
Well, yeah, parents don't really like their offspring to tell them what they should be doing. So I think having the conversation was like, we've noticed that you're struggling with this. If we did this, would it make things a lot easier? And I think in the long run, your loved ones aren't going to ask for it, but they know they need it as well.
So Ty, you're well known to the HDTV audience. You have a very popular program on there. What's your best way, since you've been a part of this in your own personal life, what's the best way to assess or prioritize a loved one's need in this kind of situation?
Well, I think you have to do exactly what you said. You have to prioritize, right? And so I think most of the time it's pretty obvious which ones are sort of the most critical. I think you run into the bathroom situation, which is like, look, is the door wide enough to even get into to have mobility, especially if they're already starting to use a cane or a wheelchair? Does that have accessibility? Some things are simple as, like, does it have safety bars so that they can hold on to something when they're sitting down on the toilet, or even a riser pad on the toilet to make life getting up or sitting down so much easier. And then it's just transition of getting in the home, right? So if you've got to go upstairs, that just becomes it's sort of a nightmare, because your fear is they're going to fall. And that could happen whether it's a slippery tile, it could be a loose rug. So it's those kind of things, but it can all come down to lighting. It can also come down to whether or not they have smart technology so it can help them sort of control the environment in their home. But in my mom's case too, sometimes it's a respiratory issue. So you have to focus more on the quality of the air they're breathing and putting in something like a HEPA filter. So it's really about seeing where they are sort of in their journey of aging with the house that they're in, and prioritizing, like, what can we spend with the budget that we have now, and then just sort of gradually adapt that home. home to get better with age the same way they are.
Yeah.
So, Ty, you mentioned the riser pad on the toilet. Even a riser pad on the toilet to make life getting up or sitting down so much easier. So, it's those kind of things, but it can also come down to whether or not they have smart technology so it can help them sort of control the environment in their home. But in my mom's case too, sometimes it's a respiratory issue. So you have to focus more on the quality of the air they're breathing and putting in something like a HEPA filter. So it's really about seeing where they are sort of in their journey of aging with the house that they're in, and prioritizing, like, what can we spend with the budget that we have now, and then just sort of gradually adapt that home to get better with age the same way they are. Yeah, and you mentioned that, Ty. I want to follow up with that and open this next question to both of you. You mentioned that, with a budget, especially with inflation being so sky high, renovations can be very daunting. Let's talk about simple improvements to make a home safer for the family and aging loved ones. Ty, let's begin with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, you think about is like, how can we make accessibility just to get in the house easier, right? I think a ramp is pretty affordable thing you can do, whether you're doing it out of wood or there's aluminum. There's also just actually doing landscaping and pavers that go right up to your door. Sometimes that's the easiest way. But I would say accessibility, sometimes just letting them have the independence to be able to do their own laundry so that they don't feel like they're just being taken care of and being, looked after all the time. Maybe moving the washer and dryer to a location that's accessible to them so that it's not up or downstairs. But yeah, like going as big as putting in an elevator, that's a lot of money. That's something that, you really want to sort of put to the back burner. If at all possible, they can still move around in a ramp situation. I think that's going to save you a lot of money. However, you got to remember what you spend on this house that is your own family's house will be passed down to the next generation that's aging, compared to what does it cost to house a family member in another location in a home. And so that's what you have to weigh. Like, what is it going to cost you a year to do that compared to the renovating of a home that's going to be in your family as everybody starts to age?
And, there are sometimes some supports to help pay for some of this. My dad was a veteran. The VA provided ramps for us, and they were these kind of rubber things that fit together like Legos, and they were threshold ramps, but they were vital for us. And the VA actually provided a lot of other supports, including a small grant to help with a bathroom remodel. There may be some supports through the Area Agency on Aging, some local organizations that will help provide ramps or build ramps. So make sure that you reach out and see if there's some supports available in your community.
Yeah, and I think during the holidays, the best thing is just observe, see where they're struggling. If they want to be part of the kitchen experience, like lower countertops, lower table, have them a place to sit where they can cut vegetables. So I think the holidays is a good time to sort of assess.
You guys are giving some great advice for our viewers that are tuning in right now. Where can people go for more information? Because you guys have hit on all kinds of great topics.
Well, visit aarp.org/caregiving, and there you're going to find all of our supports, our tips, and our tools, and I have a column there. We have lots of things to talk about care at home and how to make the home safe and make it usable for caregiving as we age. So be sure to visit us there.
Okay, Ty, anything from your perspective?
I would just say keep an eye on your loved ones. I mean, it's interesting how they childproof and made everything safe when we were younger, and now we're doing it for them as they're older. It's love, it never ends.
Really appreciate the conversation this morning. A lot of useful ideas, a lot of useful tips. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. This has been a week. There's no question. If you live in Memphis, if you live in the Mid-South, it has been tough, even if you're not directly affected by some of the crime that's happened over the last 7 days. Everything from Eliza Fletcher being kidnapped and killed on her morning run last Friday, 1 week ago, to that crime spree that happened on Wednesday where a 19-year-old suspect, according to police, started shooting people. In the end, 7 people shot, 4 people dead. There's a level of anxiety that happens anytime there's some violent crime across our community, and it can really overwhelm people. And I want to bring in now Dr. April Gardner, a behavioral health consultant with Methodist Le Bonheur Hospital. She is joining us now to talk about anxiety and ways to help cope with some of the issues that are happening. Dr. Gardner, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well today. How are you?
I appreciate you being here with us, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how prevalent anxiety is when we have these kinds of violent crime issues that garner national attention or just garner citywide attention. Do you see a spike in anxiety levels from your vantage point?
Yeah, I think that it's impossible not to experience an increase in anxiety right now. I would say that this week has been a very anxious week for most of my clients and friends and family. I think that's a pretty normal thing to experience after all this chaos.
Yeah, and tell me, let's talk specifically about the Eliza Fletcher case, because I think we were even talking about it this morning, how what she was doing and who she was really kind of related to so many different people. I mean, a lot of people wake up early in the morning, they exercise, they jog before their kids are up going to school. She was a teacher, she was a mom of 2, had a family, was active in Memphis, and here she is kidnapped and killed. How are some of the women in there? I mean, obviously it affects men and women, but certainly women are feeling those anxiety moments, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of sadness because when we lose someone too soon, it's natural to be sad. I think the anxiety comes from somebody doing their normal routine and something senseless happening and not being able to make any reason or rhyme from it. And I think it's easy to be nervous in our daily routines because somebody who is seemingly doing everything right, disciplined, caring for herself, caring for others, something still bad could happen to her. And so I think the anxiety is a really normal reaction. Sadness is really normal. But I also think something that isn't necessarily getting talked about as much is how much anger and rage some of us might be feeling. That you can put a ton of energy and intentionality and effort into taking care of yourself and taking care of others. And now we also have to think about timing on top of our busyness, but also to stay safe. And that it's not fair. It's not that fair that it has to be that much work, that we can't just take care of ourselves without the risk of danger from others.
Tell me, Dr. Gardner, why is it so important to acknowledge and address those feelings?
I think that it's important to acknowledge these feelings because they're our reality right now. A lot of us don't feel safe. A lot of us are experiencing anger at the lack of safety. It feels like we've lost some of our independence. And so it's our reality right now. And if we deny reality, it tends to lead to problems like displaced anger, getting more frustrated with your family, getting more frustrated at work, or trying to exercise like hyper control over situations that can really damage relationships with self and other and can become somewhat paralyzing. And so I think that it's really okay to not be okay right now. We need to sort of understand that no one's probably okay right now. And we need to normalize that sometimes we're going to need to cry together, or we might need more hugs, or people might need more spaces. Maybe it's okay to need a little bit more help than you normally would. Like if you were previously comfortable walking to your car alone and now you feel nervous, maybe it's okay to ask for help right now. I think it's just really important that we be gentler with ourselves and not expect to function normally after our whole world and reality seems to have been flipped upside down to some degree.
When it comes to trauma, Dr. Gardner, what actions or steps can people take to really overcome it or work through these feelings and emotions that people are having?
It sounds really simple, but the first step is honestly just to stop and breathe. And I know that sounds really silly. I always tell my clients who come to me on their worst days, I was like, I know you're telling me everything that's awful. And I'm like, have you thought about breathing? But the truth is that deep breathing exercises sort of turn off our fight or flight mechanism and allows us to clear our head and relax our body and sort of choose the next best step. And so just taking that time to relax ourselves and not carrying that tenseness and that anxiety into the next situation helps us recover from the sort of stress. Other things that we can do to sort of come with trauma is try to be more intentional with our plans, right? A number one way to try to recover from trauma and address our anxiety is to build confidence, to feel like we're doing something. So telling people where you're going, the things we've heard 1,000 times, telling people where you're going, stay aware of your surroundings, try to do activities with partners instead of on your own. But one of the things that I also think is important is not pushing yourself too hard. If you're experiencing anxiety,
Thank you.
sometimes that's your body's way of saying that, like, we need to take a step back. And a lot of times, some of us get angry about that and try to force our way through it. And then we have a negative outcome that then makes that anxiety and sort of trauma response stronger. So get help when you need it. Listen to your body, okay? These are really important things. And I think another thing is to sort of try to frame. I think when bad things happen, we always want to look at what we learn from it. And it's easy to just say that the world isn't very safe. There are things that we can't control. But what we can do is use these moments that shake us to draw attention to how we prioritize life. Say, I love you a little bit more often. Hug someone a little bit more often. I think that we're all right now really in need of emotional and physical grounding. I think that that's going to be really important.
Let me jump in here and ask you something here, Dr. Gardner. Where something that really frustrated me in the hours and days after the Eliza Fletcher case, there were so many people that started to blame her. Oh, she ran too early. You know, this is partly her fault. I mean, what was she thinking running by herself? And I just that is so. It's so frustrating for me to hear because it's not fair, and it's not something that I don't think people are trying to be mean or trying to be cold and cruel like that. But you see that a lot where people start to blame the victim in a case like that. How can we as a society overcome that aspect where people start to blame the victim?
I think being kind about this in a way is that, going back to what we said in the beginning, she seemed to be doing everything right in a lot of ways. And so it doesn't make sense how something bad happened to her. And when we're scared and we're anxious, we want to look for ways to prove to ourselves that we are actually safe. And a lot of ways we do that is by picking out how we would have done things differently and how she could have done things differently. And it comes out as victim blaming, which is unfair, and it does create a lot of anger. But I think a lot of that is just people trying to make sense of something that's terrifying. And they probably should take a little bit of time and be gentle with themselves as well. And I think we need to stop. I mean, I think victim blaming is just our efforts to understand what happened and feel safer about going about our daily routine as well.
Dr. Gardner, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. I think this is helping some of our viewers and those that are listening to this. What resources are available for people to, I guess, cope with anxiety and fear that they may be having right now?
Yeah, Methodist has behavioral health in their primary care clinics. And so if you are a patient with them, you have access to fairly quick care. Many jobs have EAPs that can usually get you in fairly quickly. And there's also the Living Well Network, which is a wonderful referral source that can give you information on counselors local to you.
Okay, Dr. April Gardner here, behavioral health consultant with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. Thanks so very much. We appreciate you and all of your knowledge this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Later today, there's going to be people from all over the Mid-South and Memphis saying goodbye, their final tributes to Pat Halloran, certainly an innovator, a pioneer who brought Broadway to Memphis and helped bring and stabilize a pillar of the arts and culture in downtown, saving the Orpheum. Action News 5's Cindy Hawkins has more on the memorial to say goodbye.
It's difficult to say if the historic Orpheum that stands here in downtown Memphis would be what it is today without the late Pat Halloran. Halloran died earlier this month. He moved to Memphis in 1969. In 1984, he was tasked with leading a fundraiser to reopen the Orpheum, bringing more than 300 Broadway shows to this theater. He would go on to win 3 Tony Awards for producing Broadway shows. Among them was Memphis the Musical, a show that debuted at the Orpheum. Now, during his retirement in 2015, leaders at the Performing Arts and Education Center right next door to the Orpheum honored Halloran by renaming the center after him. Today, more than 60,000 students visit the center for events each year. Now, Celebration of Life is scheduled for Halloran later this afternoon at 2 at the Halloran Center for Performing Arts and Education here in downtown Memphis. Halloran died at 80 years old. Meanwhile, tributes continue to pour out for Halloran both online and across the Bluff City. Reporting in Memphis, Sydney Hawkins, Action News 5.
Look at our high five camera there in Northwest Mississippi Community College. 30 degrees at 7:47. We'll be talking more about your forecast in a little bit, but we're going to take a short break. Back in 60 seconds on Action News 5. Okay, during the winter months, we have to worry about a lot of things. We have to worry about our pets, our plants, and our pipes, of course, during those freezing conditions. We also got to worry about those trees. You know, those trees out there. Are they dead? Is it just winter? Are the leaves going to come back in the spring? A lot of questions out there for some people who may or may not know what's exactly going on, and that's why we're bringing in our arborist, Nathan Baker from Jones Brothers Tree and Landscape. He's back on the digital desk with us this morning. Nathan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. So, you know, a lot of times on my way home, I will see some of the trees that I guess are used for almost like a fence a little bit. You know, I guess they're of the pine tree variety, and a lot of them are dead. And I wonder, my wife and I were wondering, is it because they were planted during a certain time and we had that hard freeze right around Christmas time, that Christmas weekend? How do we know when it's dead or when it's just hibernating, for lack of a better term?
All right, so there's a couple things you can do. And as far as your first point, asking about timing for planting, really the winter months are a great time to plant trees because the roots have a chance to harden off. So that's not going to be part of it. But how you can check these trees is you can go and you can scratch with like a fingernail or a key or a little knife, just a tiny spot on the stems. And if you see green underneath that outer layer of bark, that tells you that the tree is alive inside there. You may have some whole limbs that are dead, but it might not be the entire tree that's dead. So that's one of the first ways that you can check.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So, what are some other kind of good rules to just kind of follow when it comes to whether a tree is gone or a tree is still salvageable?
Okay, so there's going to be kind of 3 signs that your trees are in serious trouble. Okay, so the first would be if the trunk, so that main stem, if that has a split in it or if it shows peeling bark. The second would be weakness from the freeze could cause branches or even whole trees to fall down on your property. And in the last, 2 weeks or so, we've seen a good bit of that with the whole tree failure and trees falling over. And the third thing would be to look for multiple branches with no living buds. Okay, so one important thing to know is that your evergreen trees and shrubs may have lost foliage this year, and the leaves that remain may look brown or burned, and this is to be expected whenever the temperatures dropped as low as they did. We had around 2 degrees, and when you take into consideration the wind chill, we're talking well below zero, and the trees in Memphis just are not used to that kind of cold. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your tree is doomed. But when you also notice the major issues, it's time to consult with an arborist.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what is the worst kind of weather that is so harmful for some of the trees? Is it, an excess of water and some of the heavy storms that we've been dealing with, or is it the freezing conditions we had, for example, Christmas weekend? I mean, is it both?
It's really a combination of all of them, right? So if we have a lot of rain and the ground gets saturated and soft, then you have some winds come through, it can topple trees very easily. And then if we have freezing rain, which we've also experienced, you could have limbs breaking or whole tree failure. And then the very low temperatures will cause individual limbs or buds to die on these trees.
Okay, so now let's say, I go and I find out that there are, several trees that are dead. Now what do we do? Give us the next steps.
Okay, so think about your shrubs that are usually green all year. So you're talking about the evergreen trees planted in a row. Those are green all year. Could be holly trees, could be little cypress trees or arborvitaes. Now, if they have brown leaves, the name of the game is waiting. So we may not know until spring that these trees may be dead. They may leaf back out. And then another thing to keep in mind is that if you have flowering shrubs like azaleas or magnolias, is a lot of those blooms may not happen this year because of the freeze damage, but the shrub or the tree may still live throughout the season. So it might need just that one recovery year before it can really start giving that good color again.
All really good ideas and really good advice, Nathan. Is there anything else that we can touch on with regards to this topic that our viewers who are watching should know?
Okay. So there's some general kind of maintenance that you should keep in mind. I would look at mulching, right? So if you have properly mulched, so you want to get, a 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch around the tree, but you don't want it directly up against the trunk. You want to have about kind of 1 to 2 inch gap directly around the trunk of the tree. And if you mulch that can help keep the soil moisture at proper levels. Now, right now, that doesn't seem like a big issue, right? Because we're getting plenty of rain, the ground is wet. But now, once we hit summer months, this is going to help because these trees will have the soil moisture that they need to grow and to keep thriving. If you see major damage, such as cracked trunks, cracked limbs, it would be a good idea to get an arborist to evaluate that tree and help you safely remove those limbs if needed.
Okay. Well, listen, Nathan Baker, we really appreciate you, Jones Brothers Tree and Landscape Arborist. Thanks so much. Great insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
And we've got a special guest with us this morning here for a live interview. We're going to be chatting about student therapy. Now, this person is joining us all the way from New York City, and he's got a lot to talk about. We've got Michael Elson Rooney from Chalkbeat in New York. And like I mentioned, student therapy, that is going to be the conversation in the next couple of minutes. So let's get to Michael here in just 1 second. And we've got it right there. Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Very good. Glad you are joining us. We're all the way down here in the South in Memphis, Tennessee. I know you're up there in New York, but let's chit chat about something that impacts folks really across the entire country, students and therapy. Tell me more about your article.
Yeah, so what I was looking at is, over the past couple of years, we've seen this youth mental health crisis really kind of taking off, in the wake of the pandemic. And schools are trying to figure out ways to get students more help. And that often means, putting them in touch with therapists or offering online therapy, just ways to help them cope with mental health challenges. But, we started hearing from some students, from some mental health professionals that one of the obstacles that comes up is that often kids still need parental consent to get therapy. And, parents, for a whole range of reasons, have reservations about that. And so that's something that schools and families are navigating as they're trying to increase the access to mental health treatment.
Now, Michael, I know that in your article you talked about some states have different ages when it comes to consent with therapy. So can you kind of touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we see a whole range, on the low end, states, including California and Colorado, have moved to give young people the ability to consent to most mental health treatment at starting around 12. There are other states that don't even set an age. They say just when students are developmentally ready. But then, many states, I was looking a little bit at Tennessee, and, it looks like there's some limited circumstances where kids at age 16 can start, but mostly for minors under 18, it requires parental consent.
Now, when it comes to having these conversations from parents to students to teachers, it seems like there needs to be some kind of consensus as to how these conversations are happening. And so what have you learned about the way parents should be talking with their kids if they're interested in something like therapy, especially kids at a young age, those 12 and younger?
Yeah, so I think, one common thing I heard is that whatever the law is, I think pretty much everyone agrees that it's certainly preferable when parents are on board, and it makes the treatment more effective when, kids know that their parents are supporting them in it. So, I think social workers and counselors at schools are really thinking about how do we bring parents in? How do we kind of dispel any myths about what therapy is and isn't? How do we kind of remove some of the stigma here that, this doesn't mean there's something wrong with your kid or that they're going to be labeled for the rest of their life, but that this is something that can really just help.
Now, Michael, you also touched on the disparities between different communities when it comes to therapy for students. Can you touch on that also?
Yeah, so the latest figures from the CDC showed that, about 14% of white students, white young people, had reported seeing a therapist. And then for every other group, the percentage was lower, with the lowest being Asian American kids, where only about 3% of them reported having seen a therapist. And, there are some long-standing issues here when it comes to how groups have been treated by mental health professionals and social services, and some skepticism that goes back a long way. And in immigrant communities in particular, the kind of the barriers can be higher.
Absolutely. And one other thing, I know that you kind of talked about were the different perspectives, I guess, from the different regions. I know you're up there in New York, so this is a very different conversation that we're having here in southern states. Can you also talk about that?
Yeah, so, like many things in education, this is kind of gotten swept up into politics, especially over the past couple of years. And, we know that there have been so many conversations happening about what is the role of parents in deciding what happens in schools. And this is certainly one of the most personal things that parents and kids can go through. And so, it's impossible for it not to get kind of swept up in the political debate too. But, talking with families, the issues are often really personal and nuanced and individual to their circumstances and their backgrounds and their upbringings.
All right, well, that about does it for our time that we have this morning. Michael Elson-Rooney with Chalkbeat New York, thank you so much for your time and joining us right here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk down here in Memphis.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Another gorgeous day, but of course this morning started out pretty chilly across the Mid-South. But I tell you what, if you like a warmer trend, I think we have that in the extended forecast. Even today, comparatively to what we have seen the last couple of days, of course, Saturday being in the upper 30s for highs, near 50 yesterday. We'll make a run for the middle and upper 50s today. Fair amount of sunshine. There will be a few more clouds building into the skies late today, but otherwise, again, you got good weather to contend with here on this President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off. Schools are out in a lot of instances, and I would say if you got some time, maybe just go out and enjoy this beautiful weather. And I think we have a couple more days of beautiful weather on the way across the Mid-South. So if you're a fan of milder temperatures, we keep it going here. 64 tomorrow, not bad. Near 70 coming up on Wednesday. Upper 60s by Thursday as our next system starts to roll in here. Look out to the west of us, though, closing in on 80 degrees, Dallas and Fort Worth. Even Jackson, Mississippi in the mid-70s this upcoming week. Kansas City, Missouri near 70 on Wednesday before that next system comes down the pipeline, of course, wrapping in some cooler air. That next system does bring us a chance for some rain by Thursday. We'll call it about 40 to 50% opportunity for scattered showers. I think in the morning we're dry, but the afternoon we may turn a little bit wetter as our next system comes down the pipeline. A chance for a couple of passing showers in eastern Arkansas early on Thursday morning, giving you a first alert to that. But during the course of the day, the rain chances will begin to increase. So be prepared for some rain. Few rumbles of thunder, not looking like severe weather. So let's hope that that continues to be the case here with this next system coming down the pipeline. That system comes rolling through. Behind that, quickly we clear things out. So sunshine to return as we head towards your Friday, and slightly cooler air moving in behind that system as high pressure builds in the wake of it heading into the end of the week. But a general rule here, and I say a general rule because it's not all going to be a one-size-fits-all situation, because when you look at these temperature outlooks, it is very broad-brushed. Yes, generally warmer than average in the next 6 to 10 days. But like I said, there's a little hiccup there. And that hiccup comes by way of, yes, that opportunity for rain. They'll knock our numbers back a little bit. It's not terrible, though, and it won't be to what we saw this past weekend. Average high 57, average low 38. So anything above that, you got warmer than average temperatures. And notice on the 7-day forecast, just the next 7 days, we're generally above that level. Today, we're right on par for average, a little bit above average for your Tuesday, well above average coming up on Wednesday. You'll also notice the winds picking up through Wednesday into Thursday out of the south. That's going to help to bolster the milder air, the muggier air. Some gusts around 30 miles per hour come Wednesday. Near 70 the high. Here comes middle and upper 60s on Thursday. I don't think we're talking, again, an all-day rain, but majority of the afternoon is probably going to turn wet for some of us. And then most of the rain will start to taper off after midnight or by midnight on Thursday before we get a little cooler. High near 60 coming up on Friday. We'll call it upper 50s to near 60. Lower to middle 60s coming up on Saturday. And a rebound to near 70 degrees yet again by Sunday. Now keep in mind, in the extended range, if you look at the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, you can download that in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. You got the 10-day forecast there. That roll of the 70s probably continues into early next week. Now, I will caution you, and I will tell you from experience, when you have a long stretch like this time of the year where temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average on a general basis for a long period of time, there's got to be something that's going to knock you back to normal, get you back to a sensible level of where you should be for this time of the year. And usually Mother Nature has a way to do that. It's usually a strong storm system. This week, this system coming through here, not super strong. Yeah, we'll watch it closely, but this isn't the one. There might be one in the extended range. I'd say probably with the next week or two that we could see a system that could roll through here that could be a little bit more robust to bring down our temperatures, and we'll have kind of a reassuring shot of, yes, by the way, it's still winter. Maybe not to the same extent as what we just dealt with this past weekend. Oh, even that was a brief shot. But there may be some type of something to come through here to bring you back to a reality that we are still in the latter half of February, early portions of March when you get to the extended 10 to 14-day forecast. Of course, you can look at the 10-day forecast, like I said, on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, and we'll be the first to alert you of any changes moving forward.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Let's discuss colorectal cancer for a moment because it is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And in recent years, we've heard about the deaths of certain actors like Kirstie Alley and Chadwick Boseman, and it's put a new national spotlight on colorectal cancer. Believe it or not, it is the third most common cancer diagnosed in the U.S. Let's bring in someone who knows a little bit about colorectal cancer and ways to prevent it and ways to get tested. Dr. Roberto Rodriguez-Rusca. He joins us now. He is a fellow of the American College of Surgeons and colorectal surgeon at the Texas Colon and Rectal Specialist Baylor. Good morning, doctor. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about colorectal cancer and who is most at risk.
Everybody's at risk for developing colon cancer. Certainly individuals that have family history of colon cancer are at more risk, and also patients that have inflammatory bowel disease.
What are the most common signs and symptoms of colorectal cancer? I know that it's one of those that you want to catch early because if you don't, it's much more dangerous and problematic.
Yes. What everybody needs to know is that most colon cancers are asymptomatic, and in other words, no symptoms at all. Unfortunately, once the symptoms occur, it may be too late. So it's important to develop the routine of screening individuals younger than 45. It's a new guideline that came out through the American Society of Colorectal Surgeons, the American Cancer Society. Many societies are supporting screening patients when they're asymptomatic. But the symptoms, the most common symptoms are changing bowel habits, blood in the stool, abdominal pain, weight loss, anemia.
So I know that the years and the ages of people who get screened for colorectal cancer, that has come down in recent years. Can you tell me why it's come down and the screening? Can you just go to any doctor, or does it have to be specifically certain kinds of doctors? What's the easiest way for someone that's watching right now to get screened?
So the age originally was 50 years, but because of the incidence of colon cancer has increased in younger individuals, societies have lowered the age of screening, which is 45. The way to get screened, there's many ways of screening. Stool tests that you can do at home, stool colonoscopies that can be also done for screening and imaging studies. There's many different ways. Through your primary care physician, they can order a stool test for screening. You certainly would need to see a physician to have a colonoscopy performed, which is the gold standard for screening colon cancer.
There are a lot of people that when they hear colonoscopy, they immediately they tense up and they're very intimidated by that whole process once it's explained to them. What advice would you give someone who's reluctant to get screened for colon cancer?
Don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. Just get screened. If you reach the age of screening, just go ahead and follow through with any mode of testing. I know colonoscopy has the stigma of being uncomfortable, but it's really not that uncomfortable. Probably the most challenging part is just the preparation, where you need to get cleaned out before and stay on clear liquid diet to achieve cleansing of your colon in addition to a laxative. But is done under sedation for colonoscopies in most instances. And if you are still reluctant to proceed with that, at least take the advantage of stool test home kits that can be done, and your primary care physician can order that, or any physician can take care of that.
Doctor, is there anything else you want to mention? We have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here. Anything else you want to say to them? I know it is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. What else would you like to say?
Well, I think the most important thing about colon cancer is that it's curable and it's preventable. And that's the most important thing. Prevention is the key to defeat this disease.
Okay, Dr. Roberto Rodriguez Rusca, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much for your insight and your analysis on this Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Appreciate it. For decades, fluoride has been added to most of our tap water to help protect against cavities. But now studies are addressing how much is too much when it comes to fluoride and whether it can cause problems, especially in infants and expected mothers. Let's talk about this issue and more with a biological dentist, Dr. Griffith Cole. He joins us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Good morning, Dr. Cole. Let's first talk about what a biological dentist is. I've never heard of that.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so we're more like whole body dentists. We work like a functional medicine doctor in that we look at more than just fixing what's going on in the mouth. We want to know the underlying causes of the symptoms. Why are they getting cavities? Why do they have infection? So we dig a little deeper and we treat the whole person, really. We're also very concerned with materials, and so we don't work with anything that we know is toxic to the body, like mercury, nickel, and even fluoride.
That's excellent. All right, so that's perfect to set the table here for this discussion. I'm really looking forward to this discussion because I've had so many debates with various family members and some friends who hate fluoride, who hate the idea of fluoride in tap water. I mean, it was put in tap water back in the 40s to address the issue of cavities. There's been a lot of studies out there that have talked about the toxicity to people's bodies with fluoride. And now there's what I'm reading is that there may be a link when it comes to IQs and infants and children. Bring us up to speed.
I will. So you're absolutely right. Too much fluoride can negatively affect most of our organs in our body. And now we know brain function and activity. And how we know that is the National Toxicology Program, which works under Health and Human Services. Their job is to look at substances that are harmful to the environment and let us know. And they looked at these reports and found absolute brain impairments, including lower IQ, as you mentioned, in babies born to pregnant moms who ingested fluoridated water during pregnancy.
Now, I've always heard, Dr. Cole, that the amount of fluoride that's in tap water is so small and so minute that it wouldn't really affect people's bodies. Is that, I mean, I guess that's one argument, but, you know, my thought is, well, if it's any kind of poison, why put it in at all? I mean, do the negatives outweigh the positives? Where currently is this issue? Because I've seen some communities across the country removing it from their tap water because there's been such a backlash.
Yeah, so your statements are absolutely accurate in that there are many people who are now realizing that not only is it not effective, it's not doing its intended function, but it's actually very harmful. And keep in mind, too, that fluoride, when you get fluoride in your body, when you drink it, your body can only metabolize and get rid of about half of that. So the other half stays in your body indefinitely. So this is an accumulative effect, right? And that's the problem with it. Drinking it is not what we need to do. So, and now we know that we are getting too much. And in fact, Health and Human Services has lowered the level that's allowed to be added to water supplies because they're noticing children are getting these spots on their teeth, this tooth fluorosis, these white spots. Every 2 out of 5 kids has that now in this country. And we get it in these other things too, right? Like bottled drinks, we get it in some dietary supplements, mouth rinses, toothpaste, and even a lot of prescription medications. So there's just so much of it. Even if you try to avoid it, and you're hopefully in some community where you don't have your water fluoridated, you're still being exposed to it. So you got to be careful of that.
So let's talk about some alternatives out there. I know that there are a lot of alternatives that I see at health food stores, for example. They big labels on the toothpaste that says no fluoride toothpaste or fluoride free, that sort of thing. Is that what we should be looking for? Give me some alternatives.
Yeah, I feel that way, and I'll just speak for myself. I mean, I don't think that we need fluoride in any form, but there'll be plenty of dentists out there that will tell you it works topically, and they're right. You can apply it to your teeth topically and get some kind of anti-decay effect. It's unnecessary, but it does have that effect. So you know, I always tell people the same thing, and it's just simple principles that we learned a long time ago. A good, sound diet, right? One that is low in sugar, but high in vegetables, especially green leafy vegetables, good fats, ample protein, right? Combine that with good home care. And I mean simple things, right? If we brush and floss daily and spend a couple minutes brushing your teeth, clean your tongue, that combined with a good diet, and you've got a home run there. You don't need to add any kind of special dentifrice to your teeth to make them stronger. You already have the foundation.
Would you recommend that all communities across the country remove fluoride from their tap water?
I absolutely would, and have for 28 years now. It's unnecessary. It's never been proven to actually work, as I mentioned. And now we know that all these brain impairments, I mean, lower IQs, get this, they found when the National Toxicology Program looked at all these studies and they handpicked what they thought were well done, controlled, randomized studies, they found that there was a steep drop in IQ, up to 7 points in babies that were born to these moms who drank fluoridated water during pregnancy.
That is crazy to me. It's amazing to me that it's still allowed in some of the community tap water across the country. What about when it comes to toothpaste? You know, naturally, you think of toothpaste, you think of, you know, putting it on your teeth, rinsing it, cleaning it, and then spitting it out. Would there be any harmful effects from that?
So, you know, every toothpaste that has fluoride now has that little warning label. And they've had it for years where it says, you know, don't swallow more than a pea-sized amount. And the reason why is it's toxic. And if a child especially swallowed a fair amount of toothpaste, it could do some harm. So I always say you don't need to have any kind of fluoride toothpaste. You can there's so many toothpastes out there that don't have them, as you mentioned, but you can even brush your teeth with just baking soda. Baking soda and water is a really nice soft dentifrice. It'll get the plaque off your teeth, and that's really all you need. So you can save some money there.
Tell me why this hasn't gotten as much coverage. I feel like you know it, I know it, but I don't feel like this is one of those huge pressing issues that many of Americans know about.
You know, I think it's because it's been something that's been hammered into us our whole lives, right? Since 1945 anyway. And dentists especially. Like, I love to get into debates with these pro-fluoridationists, and I know I can win because I have all the science. But I think that when you're told that something is good for you and you're told that again and again, you just take things at face value without really looking at the science behind it. But if everybody just takes a moment and really digest what this report is about, I mean, now we're talking about babies being born with brain impairments. I think that should wake some people up. And don't let any pro-fluoridationist say to you, oh, these studies aren't any good. These are incredible studies. That's why the NTP actually handpicked, because there's over 80 studies, but they got down to 52 that they felt did the right, you know, really good scientific method. They were, you know, great methodologies. They were very well done. And that says a lot about these results.
Let's talk about where people can see these studies and these various scientific data points for themselves. Can they go anywhere online?
Yes, thank you for asking. So if they go to the IAOMT.org, so it's the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. The website is IAOMT.org. They can find a biologic dentist. They can find, as you mentioned, these studies. We have a library, a loaded digital library with so much information on all topics related to oral medicine. It's a great resource.
Okay, Dr. Griffith Cole, we really appreciate this conversation this morning. Thank you for joining us and illuminating us to the issues with fluoride, not only in our water, but in so many different facets of our everyday life. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Another gorgeous day, but of course this morning started out pretty chilly across the Mid-South. But I tell you what, If you like a warmer trend, I think we have that in the extended forecast. Even today, comparatively to what we have seen the last couple of days, of course, Saturday being in the upper 30s for highs, near 50 yesterday. We'll make a run for the middle and upper 50s today. Fair amount of sunshine. There will be a few more clouds building into the skies late today, but otherwise, again, you got good weather to contend with here on this President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off. Schools are out in a lot of instances, and I would say if you got some time, maybe just go out and enjoy this beautiful weather. And I think we have a couple more days of beautiful weather on the way across the Mid-South. So if you're a fan of milder temperatures, we keep it going here. 64 tomorrow, not bad. Near 70 coming up on Wednesday. Upper 60s by Thursday as our next system starts to roll in here. Look out to the west of us, though, closing in on 80 degrees, Dallas and Fort Worth. Even Jackson, Mississippi in the mid-70s this upcoming week. Kansas City, Missouri near 70 on Wednesday before that next system comes down the pipeline, of course, wrapping in some cooler air. That next system does bring us a chance for some rain by Thursday. We'll call it about 40 to 50% opportunity for scattered showers. I think in the morning we're dry, but the afternoon we may turn a little bit wetter as our next system comes down the pipeline. A chance for a couple of passing showers in eastern Arkansas early on Thursday morning, giving you a first alert to that. But during the course of the day, the rain chances will begin to increase. So be prepared for some rain. Few rumbles of thunder, not looking like severe weather. So let's hope that that continues to be the case here with this next system coming down the pipeline. That system comes rolling through. Behind that, quickly we clear things out. So sunshine to return as we head towards your Friday, and slightly cooler air moving in behind that system as high pressure builds in the wake of it heading into the end of the week. But a general rule here, and I say a general rule because it's not all going to be a one-size-fits-all situation, because when you look at these temperature outlooks, it is very broad-brushed. Yes, generally warmer than average in the next 6 to 10 days. But like I said, there's a little hiccup there. That hiccup comes by way of, yes, that opportunity for rain. They'll knock our numbers back a little bit. It's not terrible, though, and it won't be to what we saw this past weekend. Average high 57, average low 38. So anything above that, you got warmer than average temperatures. And notice on the 7-day forecast, just the next 7 days, we're generally above that level. Today, we're right on par for average, a little bit above average for your Tuesday, well above average coming up on Wednesday. You'll also notice the winds picking up through Wednesday into Thursday out of the south. That's going to help to bolster the milder air, the muggier air. Some gusts around 30 miles per hour come Wednesday. Near 70 the high. Here comes middle and upper 60s on Thursday. I don't think we're talking, again, an all-day rain, but majority of the afternoon is probably going to turn wet for some of us. And then most of the rain will start to taper off after midnight or by midnight on Thursday before we get a little cooler. High near 60 coming up on Friday. We'll call it upper 50s to near 60. Lower to middle 60s coming up on Saturday. And a rebound to near 70 degrees yet again by Sunday. Now keep in mind, in the extended range, if you look at the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, you can download that in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. You got the 10-day forecast there. That roll of the 70s probably continues into early next week. Now, I will caution you, and I will tell you from experience, when you have a long stretch like this time of the year where temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average on a general basis for a long period of time, there's got to be something that's going to knock you back to normal, get you back to a sensible level of where you should be for this time of the year. And usually Mother Nature has a way to do that. It's usually a strong storm system. This week, this system coming through here, not super strong. Yeah, we'll watch it closely, but this isn't the one. There might be one in the extended range. I'd say probably with the next week or two that we could see a system that could roll through here that could be a little bit more robust to bring down our temperatures, and we'll have kind of a reassuring shot of, yes, by the way, it's still winter. Maybe not to the same extent as what we just dealt with this past weekend. Oh, even that was a brief shot. But there may be some type of something to come through here to bring you back to a reality that we are still in the latter half of February, early portions of March when you get to the extended 10 to 14-day forecast. Of course, you can look at the 10-day forecast, like I said, on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, and we'll be the first to alert you of any changes moving forward.
All right, everyone's getting ready for various holiday meals. We just had one at Thanksgiving. You might have one coming up for Christmas. And, you know, there's a lot of things to maneuver through, various foods that you like, you dislike. Plus, what about food allergies? What about food intolerances out there? That's certainly an issue for so many of us this holiday season. It really can be difficult to differentiate between the two, and it's best to know what foods to stay away from, right, as you go in to the holiday season. And the clearest way to tell the difference between the two is by the symptoms and reaction time. So let's bring in an expert here on the Action News 5 digital desk to really kind of help us understand food allergies and food intolerance. Dr. Jill Hart joining us now. She's a food intolerance expert at York Test. Dr. Jill Hart, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Great to be here.
Well, and I appreciate you being here because my first question is, what is the difference here between a food allergy and food intolerance, and which one is more severe?
So your food allergy is your immediate reaction to a food, and in the US, people react to things like milk and eggs and shellfish, tree nuts and peanuts, and these allergies come on really quickly. So within a few minutes, you might find tingling in your mouth, you might find swelling, might be vomiting, diarrhea, and allergies are potentially life-threatening. So medical intervention is needed for when somebody has an allergy. Allergies as well are, as I say, potentially life-threatening. For food intolerances, though, are very different. Food intolerances or food sensitivities, as some people call them, they can take a few days to manifest themselves. So something you eat on a Saturday, you might not get symptoms till maybe a Monday or Tuesday. And several, foods are often involved with symptoms such as things like IBS, irritable bowel, bloating, a lot of gas, things like migraines and headaches, and other symptoms such as low mood, low energy, skin rashes and acne, joint pains, things that a lot of people live with and think it's normal for them to not have much energy or be tired all the time. And often we find at York Test, and we've been offering testing now for food sensitivities for sort of 24 years now, we often find that people, can take a test and find out what foods they're reacting to, modify their diet, and actually start to feel better.
That's great. That's great to hear. Let me ask you this, Dr. Hart. What about reaction times when it comes to food allergies and food intolerances? Is there a difference between the reaction times?
Yeah, so the food allergy is a very quick reaction. It involves an antibody type IgE, which comes up in the blood very quickly. And that's, very, very quickly whether you've got an allergy or not. And that's something that needs medical help. Food intolerances or food sensitivities, it can be hours or, a few days before you actually get your symptoms after eating the food. And, the foods can be quite wide-ranging for food intolerances and sensitivities. It might not be the culprits you might think of as being sort of milk, eggs, wheat or gluten, but any food that's got a protein in. So it might be, for some people, lentils or soy or even fruits and vegetables, coffee, chocolate. And the only way to really find out for yourself is to sort of take a very simple blood test. And we offer them from York Test on a little finger prick of blood that you can take in the comfort of your own home and find out more about what's going on.
So I have a question for you, Dr. Hart. So my wife doesn't have gluten, and about 10 years ago, she stopped having it in her diet, and she found out that she is gluten intolerant. But I often ask her, is it an allergy or is it an intolerance? And so nowadays, when she has gluten, she is immediately sick for at least 24 hours. But beyond that, she doesn't have to go to the hospital or anything, but she is sick. Like, it's almost like flu-like symptoms. Would you consider that an allergy, or is that an intolerance?
So when we think about gluten, we normally think about celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disease where gluten interacts with antibodies in the blood that actually come to attack themselves. And if your wife hasn't had a celiac test, I'd really strongly advise her to have a celiac test. And this, this requires medical support with managing celiac disease. And that's about 1 in 100 people have celiac disease, so it's relatively common. Then separately, you can have a gluten allergy or a wheat allergy, which would likely cause quite immediate responses, but the celiac disease would as well. And gluten or wheat allergy could come on quite quickly. That's sort of more relatively rare. Or you can have a non-celiac gluten intolerance or gluten sensitivity, which typically would take a few days to manifest itself, and so wouldn't normally have the immediate symptoms that your wife is suffering from.
Yeah, it's just, it's kind of interesting because there are so many people that their body reacts in an adverse way when certain foods are introduced, and I wonder if there's like you mentioned earlier that when symptoms cause you to need hospital attention, that is an allergy. But if you're at a restaurant and you're trying to figure out, is it an allergy or is it intolerance, is there kind of a guideline that you stick to?
Well, I think if you're in a restaurant and you're immediately reacting to something you're eating, then it's much more likely to be an allergy. It could be a chemical sensitivity. You could be reacting, for example, to MSG, in a Chinese meal, for example. But it would be typically an allergy if it was something that you were experiencing straight away. But for things like IBS and migraines, things that are more chronic and tend to sort of go on for many months and years, are harder to really diagnose what's going on, then that's more likely to be a food intolerance or a food sensitivity, which is they're not typically life-threatening and not as severe.
Is there an age range when it comes to when these symptoms develop? I know some people develop it at an early age, maybe perhaps in their teens and that sort of thing. What age range are you talking about here?
So for allergies, children develop allergies from quite a young age, and you can develop allergies into adulthood. But usually when you have them into adulthood, you tend to have them for life. And so, you have to manage those allergies very carefully for the rest of your life. For food intolerances, they can also develop at any age. At York Test, we actually test for food sensitivities for those over 2 years of age. And people can develop sensitivities through childhood and through adulthood. But also, food sensitivities aren't necessarily for life. They can actually resolve if you have a break from the foods that are causing you a problem for about 3 months under the guidance of a nutritional therapist, of course, and then, start to slowly reintroduce those foods back into the diet. Once your gut's had time to heal and you might want to, take probiotics or, other digestive enzymes under the guidance of a nutritional expert, then you can sometimes tolerate the foods again.
Let me ask you this. Let's say, for example, Dr. Hart, that, I love pizza, okay? And I'm allergic to pizza, or I have an intolerance to pizza, but yet I want to eat pizza because there are some days I just have a craving for pizza. If I eat something that my body is intolerant to, how does that affect my health?
Well, it depends how you're reacting really to the pizza. Obviously, if it's an allergy, then it's going to be potentially life-threatening and very severe. If you're talking about a pizza, you might be reacting to the yeast in the pizza, or the gluten, or the wheat, or the cheese, the dairy. And if you're reacting to the dairy, it could be either a lactose intolerance, which is a pure intolerance where you're actually are deficient in the enzyme that breaks down the milk sugar, the lactose. If you have a food sensitivity, though, to one of these factors, that's on the pizza or as part of the pizza, then, you can eat it. But if you have a food sensitivity, but you may find that you're suffering afterwards, with your IBS or migraines or low energy, and that might be something you choose not to eat because you know that it affects you. It might be something that you choose to eat occasionally because you think, oh, I think I will eat it. And this, of course, we're talking about things that are not life-threatening, food sensitivities. We're not talking about allergies or things like celiac disease here.
Before we let you go, Dr. Hart, I want to ask you, is because this, it's a very popular topic to talk about food allergies and food intolerances, and you've kind of told us the difference between the two, allergies being, of course, much more severe. Is it all boiling down to your gut health and making sure your gut's in tip-top condition?
But your gut health is very, very important. And obviously what you eat, what you expose your body to, your gut houses 70% of your immune system. So, if your gut bacteria, are out of balance, you've got more bad bacteria and less good bacteria, you will struggle with breaking down your foods and processing your food. So your body then can, come to form these IgG antibodies that we measure at York test. And, we found that measuring these antibodies, really can identify the foods that are causing a problem. So I think looking after your health, I sort of minimizing processed foods if you can, thinking about your health and is really important. And you can optimize your health and your diet to help alleviate some of these symptoms.
Tess, at what point do you need to see somebody or at least need to get tested when it comes to food intolerances and food allergies? I mean, is there a certain point you recommend people get tested?
I think if people are suffering any of those allergy symptoms, the tingling in the lips when they eat a food, maybe swellings, immediate vomiting, or those sorts of problems, they really do need to see their medical practitioner immediately and get follow-up. Similarly, if you're reacting to gluten in a way that is debilitating, I think again that needs follow-up with medical intervention. For food sensitivities, we've found that people often are followed up by their medical practitioner, which is what we'd advise. But a lot of people still find that they have problems such as IBS, migraines, headaches, rashes, low energy and low mood. And for them, that these things are very impactful, but they're not life-threatening. They could then choose to take a test, a food-specific IgG test that we pioneered in the UK since 1998. And it's very simple to do with a simple finger prick blood test. You can collect the blood in the comfort of your own home. We send out a blood collection kit for you, and you get the results back from our laboratory in a really easy to understand scale.
All right, Dr. Jill Hart, food intolerance expert at York Test. We appreciate your time. Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. It is mid to late July. It still very much feels like summer, and it is summer, certainly across Memphis and the Mid-South. So we got barbecues, we got vacations, slower routines. A season certainly be enjoyed by so many people, but summer can be a difficult time when it comes to healthy choices. It's not only indulgent foods, lazy days that can hurt your heart health, but you may not realize that the weather itself may present a risk here. I'm joined right now by Dr. Suzanne Steinbaum. She's a cardiologist, and she has some important summer heart health safety tips. Dr. Steinbaum, good morning to you. How do the higher temperatures impact our heart?
Well, it's certainly hot out there across the country. And what a lot of people don't know is these sweltering temperatures can actually affect the heart. It can be associated with high blood pressure. It can increase the heart rate. In fact, on these hot days, it could increase the amount of blood circulating through our body 2 times that of normal temperatures. What that means is the heart is working very hard in these hot temperature days. And if there's atherosclerosis, blockages in the arteries, history of heart attack or heart failure, these really hot temperatures can be dangerous. So it's important, if you have risk factors for heart disease, that you go see your doctor to find out if a medication regimen or an aspirin regimen might be important for you.
What about people staying active during the summer? You know, there's a lot of people out there like to bike, they like to run, jog, that sort of thing. But here in Memphis and the Mid-South, of course, we're in North Mississippi, Eastern Arkansas, West Tennessee. The temperatures, especially today, triple-digit heat when you factor in the humidity. It is so hot outside. So what's the best way to maintain that active lifestyle that we all come to appreciate when temperatures are so hot?
It's so hard because it's not great to go outside in these really hot days and exercise. So I say you have to just make a shift and go indoors, exercise in the air conditioning. You can get on a stationary bike instead of biking outside, or a treadmill inside instead of running outside. But be indoors and exercise indoors might be the best option for you. Do anything to get your heart rate up, even have a dance party if that's better for you inside. But for those of us that want to exercise outside, do it in the morning or in the evening before the temperatures get really high, or at the end of the day when they come down. And know that you don't have to push yourself that hard to get the benefit of exercise. Moderate intensity exercise is all you need to do. And you can use a heart monitor to keep track of that moderate intensity. Or if you don't have that, just pay attention to how you feel. If you're so short of breath that you cannot catch your breath when exercising, back off, slow down. You just need to be a little short of breath so it's hard to finish a sentence. And that's good enough to keep up a heart healthy exercise regimen.
So in the summer, Dr. Steinbaum, so many people are traveling. They're going on these great vacations. You know, maybe sometimes it's right around the corner or very far away overseas. And a lot of times we're off our diet. We're off, you know, kind of our food regimen that we normally like to have during any given week. So what are your biggest tips for maintaining that heart healthy diet, or at least the heart healthy proper way of eating during those holiday vacations where we just want to splurge?
You know, we go on vacation. That doesn't mean we should be on vacation from our own personal health. Enjoy your time away. Try the foods. Take a bite, but you don't have to overindulge. Instead of eating every sweet out there, you can have a juicy piece of fruit. Just pay attention, and moderation is key, and maybe a little bit of planning. So instead of grabbing all the things that are not healthy for us, pack nuts, make your own healthy trail mix, put fruit in your bag, carry it with you so you have options there that are really good for you, instead of just going off the rails and eating everything you want. And maintaining that exercise regimen is also important. Vacation should also mean maintaining heart health, and we have to really plan. plan on remembering your medication and your aspirin if this is something that's been recommended to you by your doctor, and really make sure that you're keeping a journal to remind yourself to take your medication, to remind yourself to eat healthy. Keep track of what you're doing and stay accountable, and that's the best way to stay heart healthy during your vacation time.
What else can we talk about when it comes to heart health in the summer? We've talked about exercising. We've talked about ways to stay on some sort of food regimen, a diet, if you will. Anything else?
I think it's really important for everyone to understand that 80% of the time, heart disease is preventable. And it has so much to do with our lifestyle choices. We mentioned how we eat, we mentioned how we move, but it's also about sleeping and stress and paying attention to how we feel. During this summertime, be aware of your own cardiovascular risk. Go to your doctor, get your numbers checked, understand what your risks are and whether or not it's important for you to be on medication or be on an aspirin regimen for prevention. Or if you've had a heart attack or stroke, being on aspirin can be incredibly important. But all of these things are part of a bigger picture, which is that 80% of the time, we can prevent a heart event from happening. And talking to your doctor could be one of the most critical things that you can do.
Inflation and rising costs of college are leaving many people less prepared to pay. In fact, more than 3 out of 4 parents have started saving for college, but there are concerns that continue to grow over the inflation and the rising costs. And it is something that is certainly accentuated after we saw today that the inflation rate in August rose to 8.3%. Let's bring in right now Rita Ossoff. She is with Fidelity Investments. She is the Vice President of Retirement and College there at Fidelity Investments. Rita, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
Let's talk why parents are so concerned right now. Is it just inflation, or are there other factors involved?
Well, parents are actually finding it's not just inflation, but also market uncertainty, and it's impacting parents' savings for college right now as they see their balances fall. But also, it's causing parents who haven't saved yet a little bit of concern that maybe now's not the right time to save. And on top of that is student debt. We know that's top of mind. The recent student loan forgiveness announcement definitely provided some relief, but it doesn't solve a larger issue about the rising cost of college. Yet, 79% of parents agree student debt is a big motivator for saving.
What about the misconceptions out there? 529 college savings plans, that's a big one that everyone talks about. Are there misconceptions about that?
There are misconceptions about a 529 savings plan. Many don't realize that 529s have tax advantages so that their savings can grow tax-free and actually be withdrawn tax-free when used for qualified education expenses. And contrary to some misconceptions, 529s actually have very minimal impact on a child's ability to qualify for financial aid. And also just another unknown feature is that 529s are pretty flexible. You can actually use the funds for not just college, but for K through 12, and also you can use up to $10,000 for student debt repayment.
So I have two teenagers. I got one in college. I have a high school senior right now. And I know that there are a lot of people watching that want their kids to go to school and graduate from school debt-free. What are the best things some of those parents need to be thinking about to get ready, or at least to save for college for their children?
Yeah, here's some tips that you can put into action now. One, have a plan. Parents would never recommend for their kids to just not plan for a test and to guess. And yet what we're finding is that 29% of parents surveyed in our study aren't sure what the cost of college is for their child when they enroll. So they're using their best guess. And that's just a disconnect between what families think they'll have to pay and the actual cost. But the good news is it's never too early to start saving, and using a 529 is one great way of doing that. And actually, here's a bonus tip. You can ask your family and friends to help. Many family members would likely welcome the opportunity to help save for a college goal versus buying the hot new toy or game that's out there. Two, sit down and talk to your child about their future education and financial responsibilities. We've actually found that parents who have had that talk with their child often have better saving outcomes. And lastly, do your homework if you are going to take on any debt. Debt is a tool that's sometimes used, but you really want to understand the types of debt that's out there and how you plan to pay for it. What we've seen is that parents have been reaching towards Federal Plus loans, which are taken out in the name of the parent, not the child, and often carry higher interest rates than other loans. So there's a bit of a sticker shock there for parents once they receive that first bill. And it also can have impact on other life goals, such as saving for retirement or paying down a mortgage, which is why it's so important to really understand this.
As I mentioned, I got a high school senior in the household, and I keep on telling him, hey, dude, you got to get some scholarships. You got to get scholarship money. Do you have any guidance on scholarship money out there?
I would look out there for scholarship and any sort of opportunities that are out there. Some schools actually are increasing them because of the current rising cost of college. So just like debt, do your homework. You never know what you'll find out there that can be a benefit to you, that where you don't actually have to take out debt.
If someone's watching this and perhaps they have a young one, you know, they have someone maybe in elementary school, or maybe someone that's even younger than that, they haven't started school yet, where should they begin when it comes to saving for college? Is it a 529? Is that the best way?
Well, 529 is one of the better ways, just because of the tax advantages, like we mentioned, versus other vehicles that are out there, like a regular savings account, and because of its impact, its low impact on financial aid. But it's also just a great tool because it's dedicated to education. You can only use it for that. So just having that dedicated account actually increases the ability for people to go to school, because they're thinking of that as for their future money. And just get started. Honestly, just set aside money and take advantage of the compound interest rate that comes your way when the child is still a baby.
Yeah, that's good advice. Where can people go for more information about this? Because, you know, it can be very daunting to think about, okay, I got to save for college. The price is going up so fast, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times the rate of inflation. What's the best place to get some of this, some of these ideas and suggestions that we talked about?
Well, we have resources as well as tools and calculators at fidelity.com/college.
Okay, Rita Ossoff, Fidelity Investments, Vice President of Retirement and College. We appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. There is a digital event that is promising to inspire and challenge people all over the world. It's considered unprecedented. I want to bring in someone to talk more about this event. I'm joined here on the Action News 5 digital desk by Anita Stubenrock. She is joining us here to talk about this digital event. Good morning, Anita. Tell me about it.
Good morning. Yeah, the Authentic Rebel Speaker Series. It's a 2-day digital event featuring true stories of transformative experiences. And we've gathered speakers from all walks of life to share their struggles, their triumphs, and lessons learned along the way. And it's put on by the Authentic Rebel brand. It's a story-driven community platform where members can connect, express themselves, and learn. And this is the way that founders Jen Engevic and Heidi Miller are launching that platform to the world.
Okay, so what kind of topics are we talking about? I mean, is this run the gamut of everything? Is it specifically focused on one or another? What?
Yeah, no, our topics and themes are pretty universal: overcoming obstacles, blazing new trails, facing our darkest moments, and rising against all odds. Each of our 18 speakers have had kind of their own personal make or break moment where they had to choose to be authentically themselves. And by doing that, it gives us permission to be authentically ourselves, and not to be dramatic, but that can literally save lives. One of our speakers, Ann Moss Rogers, suffered a devastating loss when her teenage son committed suicide. But by processing and sharing her experience publicly, by being emotionally naked, as she puts it, she's created a movement to prevent suicide and prevent suicide from devastating others.
I love that context. Is this for someone who might not know?
Most familiar format. The talks are about 15 minutes each, and it is a mix. It runs the gamut, all kinds of different speakers, all kinds of different topics, a wide range of ages, like roles, jobs that people have had professionally. I think TED is probably a good format to compare it to.
Excellent. So how can we get involved? Is there a cost? How does it work?
It's a sliding scale from $0 to $35, and it's a good fit really for anyone who wants hope instead of despair, direction instead of distraction, unity instead of division, or anyone who has a story inside them that the world needs to hear.
Is this the first time you've done this event? Tell me a little bit about your background, Anita, and how this event came to be.
Yeah, I am delighted to be the host and MC of this event. It's the first one. My background, I had a storied creative career at Apple for 13 years. I designed presentations that went in front of Steve Jobs. I wrote speeches for executives. I authored Apple's Credo. But really, it's what I'm doing now that ties so beautifully with the Authentic Rebel brand and the speaker series. I'm building an event and retreat space for audacious ideas and their people called the Land of Make and Believe. And I fund that development through the work of my creative agency, Cause Effect Creative. And I help people and brands rally hearts and minds around what fuels their soul.
Wow. Okay. All right. So this is scheduled for February 23rd and 24th. And tell me how people can get access to it. Where's it going to be streamed? That sort of thing.
Yeah, to learn more and register, you can go to authenticrebel.co, like co/speaker series.
Anything else that you want to mention, Anita? I mean, we have thousands of people that watch us here in the Memphis area. Is there anything else you want to mention about this?
Yeah, one of our speakers, Ann Moss Rogers, suffered a devastating loss when her teenage son committed suicide. But by processing and sharing her experience publicly, by being emotionally naked, as she puts it, she started a movement to prevent suicide and prevent suicide from devastating others. And that's just one story of 18. And it's a profound impact that an individual choice that a person can make about being authentically, rebelliously themselves to fight against conformity, that it can really, truly change the world.
Anita Stubenrock, we appreciate your time on the digital desk. Good luck with this event, the Authentic Rebel Speaker Series, and congratulations on getting this all together. And I can't wait to hear how it turns out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, another live look from our High 5 camera here in Mississippi. We're talking Northwest Mississippi Community College, 35 degrees at 9:05. Your forecast in 60 seconds.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Another gorgeous day, but of course this morning started out pretty chilly across the Mid-South. But I tell you what, if you like a warmer trend, I think we have that in the extended forecast. Even today, comparatively to what we have seen the last couple of days, of course, Saturday being in the upper 30s for highs, near 50 yesterday. We'll make a run for the middle and upper 50s today. Fair amount of sunshine. There will be a few more clouds building into the skies late today, but otherwise, again, you got good weather to contend with here on this President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off. Schools are out in a lot of instances, and I would say if you got some time, maybe just go out and enjoy this beautiful weather. And I think we have a couple more days of beautiful weather on the way across the Mid-South. So if you're a fan of milder temperatures, we keep it going here. 64 tomorrow, not bad. Near 70 coming up on Wednesday. Upper 60s by Thursday as our next system starts to roll in here. Look out to the west of us, though, closing in on 80 degrees, Dallas and Fort Worth. Even Jackson, Mississippi in the mid-70s this upcoming week. Kansas City, Missouri near 70 on Wednesday before that next system comes down the pipeline, of course, wrapping in some cooler air. That next system does bring us a chance for some rain by Thursday. We'll call it about 40 to 50% opportunity for scattered showers. I think in the morning we're dry, but the afternoon we may turn a little bit wetter as our next system comes down the pipeline. A chance for a couple of passing showers in eastern Arkansas early on Thursday morning, giving you a first alert to that. But during the course of the day, the rain chances will begin to increase. So be prepared for some rain. Few rumbles of thunder, not looking like severe weather. So let's hope that that continues to be the case here with this next system coming down the pipeline. That system comes rolling through. Behind that, quickly we clear things out. So sunshine to return as we head towards your Friday, and slightly cooler air moving in behind that system as high pressure builds in the wake of it heading into the end of the week. But a general rule here, and I say a general rule because it's not all going to be a one-size-fits-all situation, because when you look at these temperature outlooks, it is very broad-brushed. Yes, generally warmer than average in the next 6 to 10 days. But like I said, there's a little hiccup there. That hiccup comes by way of, yes, that opportunity for rain. They'll knock our numbers back a little bit. It's not terrible, though, and it won't be to what we saw this past weekend. Average high 57, average low 38. So anything above that, you got warmer than average temperatures. And notice on the 7-day forecast, just the next 7 days, we're generally above that level. Today, we're right on par for average, a little bit above average for your Tuesday, well above average coming up on Wednesday. You'll also notice the winds picking up through Wednesday into Thursday out of the south. That's going to help to bolster the milder air, the muggier air. Some gusts around 30 miles per hour come Wednesday. Near 70 the high. Here comes middle and upper 60s on Thursday. I don't think we're talking, again, an all-day rain, but majority of the afternoon is probably going to turn wet for some of us. And then most of the rain will start to taper off after midnight or by midnight on Thursday before we get a little cooler. High near 60 coming up on Friday. We'll call it upper 50s to near 60. Lower to middle 60s coming up on Saturday. And a rebound to near 70 degrees yet again by Sunday. Now keep in mind, in the extended range, if you look at the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, you can download that in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. You got the 10-day forecast there. That roll of the 70s probably continues into early next week. Now, I will caution you, and I will tell you from experience, When you have a long stretch like this time of the year where temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average on a general basis for a long period of time, there's got to be something that's going to knock you back to normal, get you back to a sensible level of where you should be for this time of the year. And usually Mother Nature has a way to do that. It's usually a strong storm system. This week, this system coming through here, not super strong. Yeah, we'll watch it closely, but this isn't the one. There might be one in the extended range. I'd say probably with the next week or two that we could see a system that could roll through here that could be a little bit more robust to bring down our temperatures, and we'll have kind of a reassuring shot of, yes, by the way, it's still winter. Maybe not to the same extent as what we just dealt with this past weekend. Oh, even that was a brief shot. But there may be some type of something to come through here to bring you back to a reality that we are still in the latter half of February, early portions of March when you get to the extended 10 to 14-day forecast. Of course, you can look at the 10-day forecast, like I said, on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, and we'll be the first to alert you of any changes moving forward.
Want to switch gears now and talk to many of those viewers that are watching both on Facebook and our digital platforms, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku, about the job-seeking market and how to get your LinkedIn profile specifically up to where it needs to be. Amp it up a little bit so that it grabs those employers and says, hey, look at me. Hire me, consider me for this next job. Let's bring in the Senior VP of Marketing for Recruiter.com, Angela Copeland, joining us. Angela, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, I appreciate you joining us. And let's talk about that market out there. So the last time we talked to you was several months ago, and you told us it was really a job seekers market. Is that still the same? And from your perspective, and how important is that LinkedIn profile these days?
It's a great question. You know, the market continues to be very exciting right now. You know, things are really changing. As you've seen, some big companies have had layoffs, things are changing. But we actually do a poll each month called the Recruiter Index. And we found for our latest poll that sentiment is up among both job seekers and recruiters. And as you know, the unemployment rate continues to be relatively low, considering everything going on in the market. So I think it's a great time to continue looking, and LinkedIn is a great place to start.
You know, so many of us have LinkedIn profiles, and a lot of times, you know, we're unsure exactly, at least I am, of what to exactly post on LinkedIn. I mainly contain it to professional skills, professional workplace, not something that's silly. You know, I'll put that on other social media platforms, but only strictly with work-based stuff do I put on LinkedIn. Am I doing right? What's the best way to really enhance your LinkedIn profile?
Yes, you are. So first of all, I hear from lots of job seekers who say, do I really have to do LinkedIn? Is it really that important? And yes, it is, especially if you have a job that's kind of a desk job. LinkedIn is critical. And I agree with you. Social things are meant for Facebook. LinkedIn is for professional. You know, LinkedIn has a lot of different uses. So one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of recruiters actually use LinkedIn to find candidates. I have heard from a ton of job seekers over the last year who've gotten cold calls from recruiters that are interested to interview them for jobs. And those interviews actually turn out to be jobs. But the way the recruiters found them very often was by looking at their LinkedIn profile. So what you want to keep in mind is that when a recruiter is looking for someone on LinkedIn, they actually search. They have a special tool where they can sort of search through LinkedIn profiles. So you want to be sure that yours is up to date. You want to have your current job, all of your current skills. There's a headline that you want to be sure to fill out because that actually helps you to go sort of up in the search rankings in LinkedIn. And you want to have a picture because you want to show those recruiters and the employers that you are a real person and that you're really there looking for a job.
So many people will reach out on LinkedIn to try and network with other professionals. Is that a good or bad idea? What are the parameters of networking on LinkedIn?
You know, I love networking on LinkedIn, but you have to do it the right way. You don't want to come across like a spammer. You don't want to be bothering people. But it is a good way to reach out. And very often it can be a good way to research a company and see if you can find who the hiring manager is or who the other people are that work at that company. And, you know, I think that is a really solid way to use LinkedIn. If you want to reach out and mention that you've seen a job posting that you're interested in and you'd love to ask more questions, or that you'd love to sort of share a little bit about your background, I think that's great. Assuming that LinkedIn is sort of like your one-stop shop to getting free meetings all day, every day is kind of a bad tactic to be taking. But I think, you know, LinkedIn can be an excellent source. There are also a lot of groups on LinkedIn that you can join that are specific to sort of industry or job function. And it's a great way to meet other people that are in your industry and to really connect with them. But I think last but not least, there is an entire section of jobs that are posted on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a job, you know, you can actually go and look up jobs at all different companies, not just LinkedIn, but many different companies, and find a fit for what you're looking for, and then you can actually apply. So it's interesting because you can use it in a lot of different ways, you know, to stay in touch with people you've worked with, to make new connections, and then to apply for things you'd like to do in the future.
Great advice, Angela. What about the do's and don'ts? I get people coming to me saying, I don't know if I'm posting too much on LinkedIn or if I'm not posting enough. You know, you don't want to bother people, but at the same time, you want to get your name and brand out there. Are there some good do's and don'ts that people should be following?
Absolutely. You touched on one, which is really keep it professional. You know, when you have your photo that you're uploading, make sure that it is just you and that it's recent. I've seen pictures in the past of people that are in a wedding dress or that are at a party or have a drink in their hand. You know, that is not a LinkedIn photo. So there are things like that you want to keep in mind. You know, you want to, again, keep your profile up to date. I would say keep in mind, though, that if there are certain things that are confidential about your job or your company, don't post those in your LinkedIn. You know, have discretion. Again, like, don't reach out to people too often. If you are posting, you can actually share posts similar to Facebook. You can kind of share updates on LinkedIn. And I would keep those to things that are truly useful information to the folks that you're connected to. You don't want to be posting sort of random things that you might otherwise see on a site like Facebook. And I would also follow sort of social etiquette norms where you're not talking about things like politics, religion, money right on your LinkedIn. You know, think of it almost like a dinner party where you only know these people so well and you're there to make a good first impression, but it's got to be kind of surfacey to some degree.
LinkedIn has certain levels, premium, the free membership. I mean, when should we go for the premium?
You know, it's a good question. The good news is they have a trial, and I always suggest to job seekers sign up for the trial and see what you think about it. You can get away with not having it, but if you are actively looking for a job, sometimes signing up for the paid service can be helpful. The big feature that I think is really useful to job seekers is that it allows you to send what's called an in-mail. And that means that you can send kind of like an email within LinkedIn, but to folks that you don't otherwise know or you're not already connected to. And each month, if you have a paid subscription, you're allocated, I believe it's maybe 5 in-mails that you can send, and that can really help you as you're applying. To me, that's really the biggest difference. Although I do think it's possible that LinkedIn tends to prioritize the paid members above the non-paid members when it comes to applications and other, communications within LinkedIn. So I think there's a slight advantage, and it's not too terribly expensive. But I would start out with the free trial because you can certainly get away with using that.
You mentioned earlier about your picture, make sure you have a picture on there. And I'm curious, a lot of times people don't know the kind of picture. Do you want a picture where you're sitting at a cubicle? Do you want a picture where, it's like a glamour shot? I mean, can you give a little clarity on the picture?
It's a great question. When it comes to your picture, it doesn't have to be some professional photo that you hire a photographer to take. You can have a family member or a friend take it, and you could take it with a phone even. But it does need to be, a shirt or a dress that you would wear in a professional environment. And, you want to have good lighting. You want to have the picture be recent, and, be sort of in a space where there are not other people around in that photo with you. And it should primarily be your face. Those would be the guidelines I'd really try to stick to with the photo.
This has been fantastic, Angela. Really appreciate the insight here. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
No, I think, if you're ready to look for a job, start now, because it can take months and you don't want to put it off. And, I would say one of the biggest fears job seekers have is, gosh, what if I get that job offer and it's not for me? But if it's not for you, you can just turn it down and keep going. So start looking.
How long would you say that it takes someone to get a job in this market?
Oh, it's such a good question, because so often as a job seeker, you'll get feedback from your family and friends who just can't believe that you don't have a job yet. It really depends. At an executive level, it could take 3 to 6 months to go through an interview process once you find the right job. But sometimes if you're sort of like in an entry-level position, say right out of college, that process could just take a few weeks or maybe 1 to 2 months. But first, you've got to get in front of that hiring manager, and that takes time. It takes persistence. So, get out there and start applying now.
Angela Copeland, thanks so much. We appreciate the insight each and every time we talk. Thanks for taking a few minutes with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Another gorgeous day, but of course this morning started out pretty chilly across the Mid-South. But I tell you what, if you like a warmer trend, I think we have that in the extended forecast. Even today, comparatively to what we have seen the last couple of days, of course, Saturday being in the upper 30s for highs, near 50 yesterday. We'll make a run for the middle and upper 50s today. Fair amount of sunshine. There will be a few more clouds building into the skies late today, but otherwise, again, you got good weather to contend with here on this President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off. Schools are out in a lot of instances, and I would say if you got some time, maybe just go out and enjoy this beautiful weather. And I think we have a couple more days of beautiful weather on the way across the Mid-South. So if you're a fan of milder temperatures, we keep it going here. 64 tomorrow, not bad. Near 70 coming up on Wednesday. Upper 60s by Thursday as our next system starts to roll in here. Look out to the west of us, though, closing in on 80 degrees, Dallas and Fort Worth. Even Jackson, Mississippi in the mid-70s this upcoming week. Kansas City, Missouri near 70 on Wednesday before that next system comes down the pipeline, of course, wrapping in some cooler air. That next system does bring us a chance for some rain by Thursday. We'll call it about 40 to 50% opportunity for scattered showers. I think in the morning we're dry, but the afternoon we may turn a little bit wetter as our next system comes down the pipeline. A chance for a couple of passing showers in eastern Arkansas early on Thursday morning, giving you a first alert to that. But during the course of the day, the rain chances will begin to increase. So be prepared for some rain. Few rumbles of thunder, not looking like severe weather. So let's hope that that continues to be the case here with this next system coming down the pipeline. That system comes rolling through. Behind that, quickly we clear things out. So sunshine to return as we head towards your Friday, and slightly cooler air moving in behind that system as high pressure builds in the wake of it heading into the end of the week. But a general rule here, and I say a general rule because it's not all going to be a one-size-fits-all situation, because when you look at these temperature outlooks, it is very broad-brushed. Yes, generally warmer than average in the next 6 to 10 days. But like I said, there's a little hiccup there. That hiccup comes by way of, yes, that opportunity for rain. They'll knock our numbers back a little bit. It's not terrible, though, and it won't be to what we saw this past weekend. Average high 57, average low 38, so anything above that, you got warmer than average temperatures. And notice on the 7-day forecast, just the next 7 days, we're generally above that level. Today, we're right on par for average, a little bit above average for your Tuesday, well above average coming up on Wednesday. You'll also notice the winds picking up through Wednesday into Thursday out of the south. That's going to help to bolster the milder air, the muggier air. Some gusts around 30 miles per hour come Wednesday. Near 70 the high. Here comes middle and upper 60s on Thursday. I don't think we're talking, again, an all-day rain, but majority of the afternoon is probably going to turn wet for some of us. And then most of the rain will start to taper off after midnight or by midnight on Thursday before we get a little cooler. High near 60 coming up on Friday. We'll call it upper 50s to near 60. Lower to middle 60s coming up on Saturday. And a rebound to near 70 degrees yet again by Sunday. Now keep in mind, in the extended range, if you look at the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, you can download that in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. You got the 10-day forecast there. That roll of the 70s probably continues into early next week. Now, I will caution you, and I will tell you from experience, when you have a long stretch like this time of the year where temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average on a general basis for a long period of time, there's got to be something that's going to knock you back to normal, get you back to a sensible level of where you should be for this time of the year. And usually Mother Nature has a way to do that. It's usually a strong storm system. This week, this system coming through here, not super strong. Yeah, we'll watch it closely, but this isn't the one. There might be one in the extended range. I'd say probably with the next week or two that we could see a system that could roll through here that could be a little bit more robust to bring down our temperatures, and we'll have kind of a reassuring shot of, yes, by the way, it's still winter. Maybe not to the same extent as what we just dealt with this past weekend. Oh, even that was a brief shot. But there may be some type of something to come through here to bring you back to a reality that we are still in the latter half of February, early portions of March when you get to the extended 10 to 14-day forecast. Of course, you can look at the 10-day forecast, like I said, on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, and we'll be the first to alert you of any changes moving forward.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. One of the best reporters that follows and tracks taxpayer money, dollars, elected officials to see what they're doing is Sam Hardiman with the Daily Memphian. He joins us regularly at this time, every couple of weeks, to talk about some of the articles that he's working on, some things that have been already published. And today, this morning, there is one about Memphis tourism sitting on $27 million, gets tax dollars to promote the city. Sam, good morning to you. I appreciate the article as always. First off, I want to say, how was your weekend?
Morning, Andrew. Good morning to you as well. My weekend was good. I got some baseball cards and some basketball cards, and that was very exciting. I like your tie today as well. How was your weekend?
Very good. Thank you for the compliment. Hey, look, baseball, football cards, hey, that's all good stuff. You never know. One of those things could be worth a lot of money one of these days. So let's get into your article because Memphis tourism, that's always, an interesting topic to talk about. Taxpayer dollars, it's a nonprofit, 501c3. And I like how you compared the dollars with other cities that we're familiar with and how Memphis manages their money. I don't want to say too much, so I open it up to you on how much you want to explain your article.
Yeah, so people can check this article out at dailymemphian.com. And what we did and what I wrote about at the Daily Memphian is Memphis Tourism, known as the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau, is a 501c6. It's a type of nonprofit. It's a business league. And it receives a substantial amount of money every year from local government, from Shelby County and the city of Memphis. It receives about $11 million from Shelby County in hotel motel taxes. It receives about $5 million in hotel fees, essentially taxes, from the city of Memphis. That money is supposed to be used to promote tourism throughout the Memphis region, throughout Shelby County. And what we found at the Daily Memphian, looking through about 10 years of federal tax filings, 990s, that are publicly available, was that Memphis tourism has really grown a significant cash pile. It was at the end of June 2022, which is the latest figure available, had $27 million on its books. And by on its books, I mean the cash it has in its bank account, savings account, as well as a bond fund. Essentially has bond mutual funds, which is a very common and safe investing practice largely. And all that money adds up to about $27 million. And I looked at other 501c6 convention and visitors bureaus throughout the country. And those three were San Diego, Atlanta, and Nashville, which is obviously right down the road. And all those convention and visitors bureaus spent well more than 95% of their revenue on an annual basis. So they got revenue in, it went out the door, essentially. What's happened with Memphis Tourism is over the past 5 years, they've spent about 85% of their revenue. So which is the most of their revenue, certainly, but 15% of the money that they've received, largely from local government, just hasn't been spent on promoting Memphis.
So, so you said 85% is spent, and you said with the other areas that you looked at, Nashville, Atlanta, San Diego, they spend 95%? Is that what you said?
San Diego spends 98%, Nashville spends 98%, and Atlanta spends 95%.
Okay. And when you ask Kevin Kane, who's the president of Memphis Tourism, what was his response to only spending 85%?
Said that he wasn't trying to build a giant cash pile at the risk of not serving Memphis and Memphis tourism, and that he was really following best practices in order to keep a significant amount of cash on hand. You know, he said 6 to 9 months of expenses on hand in case of, a revenue shortfall of some kind. Judging from the expenses that Memphis MA runs on an annual basis, which is about $14 million, $27 million is essentially 2 years of cash on hand. It's not 6 to 9 months.
Gotcha. Is there a push to maybe change up practices from the Memphis Tourism side, or what do you
Yeah,
think?
I don't know if there's a push yet. I've seen some local elected officials, for example, Shelby County Commissioner Mick Wright, noted the article after it came out this morning, and sort of openly wondered what Shelby County could do with $11 million. Remember, the money that comes from Memphis tourism, the $11 million a year from Shelby County, is hotel motel taxes, and that's been essentially written into statute ordinance. That it goes to Memphis tourism. It pays off the debt. Essentially, it pays off the debt at FedEx Forum, which is where the Memphis Grizzlies plays and is jointly owned by the city and the county. And then the remainder essentially goes to Memphis tourism. That's the way the rules are written of, how this goes. Those rules could be changed. And obviously one county commissioner saying something is not a movement make. But it's certainly interesting. I think people are waking up today and learning just a little bit about it.
I would think Memphis tourism has a lot to do in order to get people to come to town, and tourism is certainly a lifeblood of this area, certainly one of the biggest industries out there when it comes to Memphis and the Mid-South. It'll be interesting to see if there's maybe a movement to spend more of its budget or to cut it back.
Will certainly be interesting going forward, and we'll definitely be following it.
Okay, if someone's joining us right now for the very first time and they're being introduced to Sam Hardiman, he's the city beat writer for the Daily Memphian, and he covers essentially Memphis City Hall and taxpayer dollars and Shelby County Commission as well. Is there anything else you want to mention, Sam, to our audience right now before we let you go?
No, thank you. Thanks for having me on, and please check out the article at dailymemphian.com and check out all of our work at dailymemphian.com. And if you can, please subscribe. Every little bit helps. Journalism is not free. Andrew, I really appreciate coming on every 2 weeks. It's great.
Yeah, no, I love it too, and I love talking about your stories because these are important stories, as you mentioned. Just following taxpayer dollars. I mean, it's just important that someone's out there doing that work, Sam, and thankfully you're one of those guys. So we really appreciate your hard work. You're right, it isn't free, and people should subscribe. So thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, thank you, Sam. There's another live look from our High Five camera there in Midtown Memphis, where it's 42 degrees, 9:37. We're back in 60 seconds. You know, right now there are college graduates getting ready to get the cap and gown and to go out in the real world and to face the real world and look for that first job. Well, there has been a book that's been written about fast start tips, ways to help job seekers launch a career, get noticed, and achieve early success. And I have the author right now about to join us here on the Action News 5 digital desk to talk about what's in the book and ways that people can fast start their career. I'm joined right now by Fred Sievert. He is a former president of New York Life Insurance Company who wrote this book. Mr. Sievert, good morning to you. I appreciate you joining us. Tell us about the book and why you decided to write it.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. Well, the genesis of this book, I had already written a couple of books, but this one My daughter came to me as I was still president of New York Life Insurance Company, and she said she was in a low-level entry position at a big global cosmetics firm. And she said, you know, Dad, this is getting kind of boring and monotonous, and I'd like you to give me some tips on how I might get noticed in advance, make a real career out of this. So I thought long and hard about how I might notice someone deeper in the organization at New York Life, came up with 5 tips that I gave my daughter. She implemented them well. And over the course of just a couple of years, she took on more and more responsibility and several promotions. Then, you know, as a result of that, I used those 5 tips in 3 commencement addresses I had made and got a lot of rave reviews and feedback from that. And I ended up writing a short article, and my agent saw the article and said, you know, Fred, you've got another book here. And I said to myself, well, I thought I really hadn't thought about that very much, but, you know, you may have a point. And so I went ahead and expanded it to 10 tips and then wrote the book. And frankly, the initial audience for the book, most publishers ask you to target a relatively small, narrow audience. My initial audience was for Christian college students graduating from college. And it actually will make a great gift. I'm so glad I'm on your show this time of the year before the commencement period. But anyway, what happened is there was this massive expansion in the market, because originally Subtitle was going to be advice on entering the workforce for the first time. And then I thought about it and I said to myself, you know, there are adults coming back from child rearing years. There are military veterans coming back to take on a new role. So I changed the subtitle to entering or re-entering the workforce. And it even expanded beyond that, because it was published, you know, near the end of COVID. And so many people were reimagining their future and re-entering the workforce after a COVID furlough that it became a very huge market at that point. And then I will say, Andrew, it even expanded more, and none of this was intentional. I think it was providential, but it even expanded more if you were to go on Amazon.com and read the reviews that are up there for this book, you'd find a good number of them, maybe half or more, say this book is not just for Christians because of the great value of the business advice. So that was the genesis of it. And, you know, it's doing very well. And I'm pleased to have a chance to talk about it here on your show.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here and just kind of giving us an overview. If you were to boil it down to maybe a few sentences, because I think that anyone who talks about ways to get ahead or ways to stand out in a positive way or ways to be high achievers in today's world, I think that always is attractive to a lot of different generations out there, whether they're just entering the workforce or re-entering the workforce. If you had to boil it down to a few sentences, Fred, what would be those few sentences that your book really hones in on? Maybe some underlying themes.
Yeah, first of all, the advice given is very practical. And I get a lot of feedback on that applying the principles here really do work. And over the course of my career, I mentored over a dozen people who ultimately became CEOs or presidents of their organizations. So it has proven success. There's no question about that. But it zeroes in on, I'll just mention the 4 or 5 most popular chapters in the book. One was one of the biblical, there's 5 chapters on biblical principles in the workforce. And then there's 10 chapters on these fast starting your career tips. One of the ones on in the biblical principles, which caught a lot of interest, was a chapter that says, make Jesus as a business partner. Then in the other tips, the couple that were among the top 5 I gave to my daughter, which got expanded to 10, One was embracing the company's mission. And I told her at the time, you know, I'd like you to memorize the company's mission so you could recite it. And she said to me, Dad, do you really want me walking around reciting the mission? And I said, no. I said, in fact, I don't want you to do that because you might appear arrogant, and arrogance is the biggest career blocker there is. But I want you to recite it so you can, you know, memorize it so you can recite it, because it'll be embedded in your brain, and you can then judge and look at various decisions you're making to make sure they're consistent with the mission of the organization. And it's critically important for organizations to their actions to align with their mission. Another one that was very popular, maybe the most popular chapter, was one called, the title was Understanding the Underlying Financial Fundamentals of the Business. And my daughter never had any classes in economics, finance, accounting. So she was kind of petrified by that one. But I said, you know, I'm going to give you some really simple ways as someone deep in the organization to get an understanding that very, very few people, even at high levels in the organization, will have. And this will differentiate you. You will be noticed because of your look at the numbers. Another one of the chapters that got a lot of attention was the very final one in the book, called Balancing Faith, Family, and Career. Because I think in the intensity of the work environment right now, so many people struggle with that, you know, and making that balance. I remember early in my career, I kind of thought on Sundays I was a Christian, Mondays through Fridays I was an employee, and on Saturdays I was a husband and a spouse, or a father. And, you know, I came to learn pretty quickly that I was all of those things all of the time. And for that reason, I wrote this book, because it integrates the 5 chapters on faith and the 10 chapters on business tips, integrates them together. So the biblical principles chapters have examples of how I applied them at work. And the fast tip chapters talk about the biblical support for the kinds of things I was recommending.
You know, I just want to make sure our audience knows that, because there's thousands of people that watch us each and every day, the title of your book, Fast Starting a Career of Consequence, Practical Christ-Centered Advice for Entering or Re-entering the Workforce. You told me that the book appeals to so many people, people of faith and people who aren't necessarily all that spiritual. Why do you think it has this broad appeal?
Well, I really think because of the tips that stand on their own and have been very successful. And there's a lot of detail around things like making every performance, every presentation a command performance is one of the chapters. You know, over preparing for every meeting is another chapter. And I give many examples. Another one that was popular is take charge of your own development. And that's popular because in today's environment, there's a lot of pressure on making profits and say cutting expenses. And so you can't assume that your boss or your superiors are going to take charge of your development. So you need to do it yourself. And I gave several examples of ways in which people could do that. So it's really actionable. It's very actionable. And in fact, there's a companion workbook that's a bit shorter, not as much reading, but it goes through in detail and provides exercises for people to follow to implement, you know, those tips.
With today's work climate, and you've mentioned it several times, what is the biggest mistake that you see with people entering the workforce nowadays? Is there something that's so glaring that you just kind of want to yell through the mountaintops, hey, you're doing this all wrong?
Yeah, well, when I started to observe people at New York Life, it answered to my daughter's question. One of the things, and New York Life's a huge company, you know, 65,000 agents and employees. But this book applies to small companies, even entrepreneurial startups. But one of the things I noticed pretty quickly was people who were sort of coming in right at the opening bell or late to work and leaving early. And I said, there's a real simple way to demonstrate your commitment, which is another chapter in the book, demonstrate your commitment to the company. And that is, come in early and leave late occasionally, and you'll get noticed. You'll get noticed for doing that. But there are a whole bunch of other ways to differentiate yourself. But I think that's a mistake. I think as people advance in an organization, and I found this to be the case even at a very high level at New York Life, people reporting to me, they didn't understand the financials, so they weren't going to go any higher. And that's why I said that one chapter was so popular. But also, in addition to not understanding the financials, they didn't know how to think strategically. This is really big. In fact, in my view, this was the most impactful chapter in the book, which was finding ways to demonstrate strategic thinking capability. And I really lay this out in a way that asks questions. If someone's already working or about to go into a job, they can read that chapter, and it lists about 8 or 10 questions one can ask that can help you focus on strategy and the difference between strategy and tactics, because strategy was originally a war term, on how do you defeat the enemy. And I think in business, the analog is strategy is about beating the competition. So one must get an understanding of the competition. And for someone at a low level, entry level in the organization, that's pretty easy to do. If you read the strategic plan, you'll understand who the competitors are. I tell in the book, I even say you might do some mystery shopping if you can afford it. You won't be able to afford it in the automotive business, but in other businesses, you can buy the competitors' products and compare them against your own company's products and start to ask questions. Are we meeting the demands of the market? Are there ways in which these products could be improved? So that chapter, in my view, like I said, was probably the most impactful. It may not be something that everyone at a low level is going to benefit from immediately, but to demonstrate strategic thinking, extremely important.
We have tens of thousands of college graduates about to graduate from school, look for a job, perhaps enter the workforce. If you had one piece of advice that you'd like to give to all of them, what would it be?
Well, I think early on, as they're looking for a job and they're interviewing, I would say the chapter on memorizing the mission statement is very important, because if you go in and preparing for the interview, understanding the company, memorize the mission statement, don't recite it. Like I said, don't recite it, but indicate you're aware of the mission of the company. And if it's true, you can say you have a passion for that mission. I wouldn't lie about it, but if you have a passion for the mission, this is going to help you immensely in the interview process.
He is the former president of New York Life Insurance Company, Fred Sievert. We really appreciate this discussion. Thanks so much for talking with us, and best of luck to you in retirement and all that you do.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate being on.
Now I want to talk about the workplace and mental health in the workplace. In fact, there was a new survey done by the Harris Poll that said most U.S. military members, 93%, agree that mental health is just as important as physical health. But 1/3 of military members report never seeking out professional counseling, despite a majority experiencing lack of sleep and having anxiety. And that whole transitioning to the civilian workforce, well, that can create a lot of stress as well. Let's bring in right now to the Action News 5 digital desk someone to talk more about this issue. I'm joined now by Dr. Trina Clayu. She is discussing some of the key findings in this poll and how employers can support people, especially veterans, in the workforce. Dr. Clayu, good morning. Let's talk a little bit more about this Harris poll and some of the findings.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for having me. So for the Harris poll, what I think is interesting now is that we've been working with GivenHour. We've been working with the University of Phoenix and their Career Optimum Index, and it found that 74% of American workers are feeling stressed about their job, and almost half are experiencing feelings of burnout. And so we've really been encouraging a fundamental shift. We need more people who are educated about mental health, who understand the signs of emotional distress, who know what to do when they see those signs in themselves or others. And, when it comes to veterans in the workplace, we need to really help create a supportive environment where managing your mental health is seen as an integral focus on overall health and well-being.
What would you consider is the state of mental health in the workforce overall, Doctor?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that anyone would really argue that it's really in a crisis situation, not just for veteran workers, but for most workers. And veterans come with their own set of unique needs and considerations when we're talking about mental health. And so one of the things that we really have to overcome often is this feelings of stigma in the military. Individuals coming from the military oftentimes are bringing a significant amount of stigma that really prevents them from seeking the kind of help that they want and need.
So how do we improve the workplace, not only for veterans out there, but just overall for everybody's good mental health?
Yeah. Yeah, I think first and foremost, we just need to recognize that all of us, including veterans, we have a range of experiences, and we have relationships and life events and those things that we bring to the workplace. But also that comes with thoughts and emotions and feelings that really influence our mental health. And so every one of us, including veterans, requires a support system of care, both in our personal lives and at work. And so we're encouraging colleagues to do, they can take on kind of 4 steps in order to really help veterans in the workplace. One is to expand their knowledge about mental health. You can join us and become a GivenHour Wellness Ambassador. There you'll gain tools and information on mental health literacy. The second is identifying your best practices for building resilience and sharing those with others. It's a really great way of normalizing mental health and mental health practices. Excuse me. 3 is we make it a habit to encourage open and empowering discussions about mental health that nurture connections and build trust. It's something veterans have expressed that they miss, is kind of that camaraderie and bonding experience they have in the military. And so how can we do that and replicate some of those experiences in the workplace? And then 4th and finally, GivenHour has created a workplace toolkit. We worked with some employers that you would know, like Amazon and Booz Allen, CVS Health, Magellan Federal, Real Horizons Consulting, Transcend, of course, the University of Phoenix, the VFW, and the U.S. Chamber. And together, we're inviting employers to work with us to tailor the toolkit to really address the specific wants and needs of veterans at work when it comes to their mental health. And what we see is that this can also help address some of those same stigmas that were found in that index study.
Yeah, I like that. I like the 4 steps: expanding knowledge, identifying best practices, open discussions, and a workplace toolkit. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go? Perhaps places online where people can get more information on this?
Absolutely. We invite you to visit us at givenhour.org/veteran workforce, and there's more information there.
Okay, Dr. Trina Clayu, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Another gorgeous day, but of course this morning started out pretty chilly across the Mid-South. But I tell you what, if you like a warmer trend, I think we have that in the extended forecast. Even today, comparatively to what we have seen the last couple of days, of course, Saturday being in the upper 30s for highs, near 50 yesterday. We'll make a run for the middle and upper 50s today. Fair amount of sunshine. There will be a few more clouds building into the skies late today, but otherwise, again, you got good weather to contend with here on this President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off. Schools are out in a lot of instances, and I would say if you got some time, maybe just go out and enjoy this beautiful weather. And I think we have a couple more days of beautiful weather on the way across the Mid-South. So if you're a fan of milder temperatures, we keep it going here. 64 tomorrow, not bad. Near 70 coming up on Wednesday. Upper 60s by Thursday as our next system starts to roll in here. Look out to the west of us, though, closing in on 80 degrees, Dallas and Fort Worth. Even Jackson, Mississippi in the mid-70s this upcoming week. Kansas City, Missouri near 70 on Wednesday before that next system comes down the pipeline, of course, wrapping in some cooler air. That next system does bring us a chance for some rain by Thursday. We'll call it about 40 to 50% opportunity for scattered showers. I think in the morning we're dry, but the afternoon we may turn a little bit wetter as our next system comes down the pipeline. A chance for a couple of passing showers in eastern Arkansas early on Thursday morning, giving you a first alert to that. But during the course of the day, the rain chances will begin to increase. So be prepared for some rain. Few rumbles of thunder, not looking like severe weather. So let's hope that that continues to be the case here with this next system coming down the pipeline. That system comes rolling through. Behind that, quickly we clear things out. So sunshine to return as we head towards your Friday, and slightly cooler air moving in behind that system as high pressure builds in the wake of it heading into the end of the week. But a general rule here, and I say a general rule because it's not all going to be a one-size-fits-all situation, because when you look at these temperature outlooks, it is very broad-brushed. Yes, generally warmer than average in the next 6 to 10 days. But like I said, there's a little hiccup there. That hiccup comes by way of, yes, that opportunity for rain. They'll knock our numbers back a little bit. It's not terrible, though, and it won't be to what we saw this past weekend. Average high 57, average low 38, so anything above that, you got warmer than average temperatures. And notice on the 7-day forecast, just the next 7 days, we're generally above that level. Today, we're right on par for average, a little bit above average for your Tuesday, well above average coming up on Wednesday. You'll also notice the winds picking up through Wednesday into Thursday out of the south. That's going to help to bolster the milder air, the muggier air. Some gusts around 30 miles per hour come Wednesday. Near 70 the high. Here comes middle and upper 60s on Thursday. I don't think we're talking, again, an all-day rain, but majority of the afternoon is probably going to turn wet for some of us. And then most of the rain will start to taper off after midnight or by midnight on Thursday before we get a little cooler. High near 60 coming up on Friday. We'll call it upper 50s to near 60. Lower to middle 60s coming up on Saturday. And a rebound to near 70 degrees yet again by Sunday. Now keep in mind, in the extended range, if you look at the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, you can download that in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. You got the 10-day forecast there. That roll of the 70s probably continues into early next week. Now, I will caution you, and I will tell you from experience, When you have a long stretch like this time of the year where temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average on a general basis for a long period of time, there's got to be something that's going to knock you back to normal, get you back to a sensible level of where you should be for this time of the year. And usually Mother Nature has a way to do that. It's usually a strong storm system. This week, this system coming through here, not super strong. Yeah, we'll watch it closely, but this isn't the one. There might be one in the extended range. I'd say probably with the next week or two that we could see a system that could roll through here that could be a little bit more robust to bring down our temperatures, and we'll have kind of a reassuring shot of, yes, by the way, it's still winter. Maybe not to the same extent as what we just dealt with this past weekend. Oh, even that was a brief shot. But there may be some type of something to come through here to bring you back to a reality that we are still in the latter half of February, early portions of March when you get to the extended 10 to 14-day forecast. Of course, you can look at the 10-day forecast, like I said, on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, and we'll be the first to alert you of any changes moving forward.
Jennifer Chandler back in. Feels like it's been forever, Jennifer, since we talked with you. Glad to have you back. And you know, a lot of people during Lent, during the Lenten season, they like to refrain from meat. And so I think your title of the best fish dishes across Memphis and the Mid-South is perfect. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. And first and foremost, happy Valentine's Day. And one of the reasons I wrote this story, because Valentine's Day falls on Ash Wednesday, which is a day of abstaining from meat. And then for the next 6 weeks, there will be abstaining from meat on Fridays. And so I thought I would, for those that are Catholic and observe those traditions, so I thought I'd compile this list for those people, as well as people who just love to eat fish, which I'm a big fan of fish dishes.
Me too. Me too. I'm with you. Let's go.
So the first one on my list, and first I actually have to say, this list was a little hard to put together in some respects because it's funny how many dishes have like bacon in it or chicken stock or pork. So all the dishes on this list that we're going to talk about today, I have a full list of 10 up on the commercialappeal.com, but all of them are meat free. So there's no pork and no chicken stock, no meat in them at all. So these are all Lent approved, or if people are avoiding pork approved, fish dishes. So the first one on my list is at Dory Restaurant in Brookhaven Circle. And this dish it's called scallops and mussels. And it is a very kind of simple dish, but done so well. I mean, it is just sublime. It is perfectly seared scallops and with a few perfectly cooked mussels that are served over a just creamy, perfectly cooked risotto. A citrus beurre blanc kind of ties it all together. It's one of those dishes that I say kind of exemplifies why Chef David Krog over at Dory is one of the best chefs in Memphis, because he can make something so simple be so elevated. And it's really, really one of my favorite dishes there and something that I order every time I go. So next on my list is Tsunami. So Tsunami has this dish. Their roasted sea bass is kind of been it's a quintessential Memphis fish dish that makes pretty much every best fish dish list in Memphis for decades now. I think that Chef Ben Smith put it on his very first menu, and he has never been able to take it off because people always complain because it is so beloved. And again, simple dish with everything done perfectly. He takes and pan sears a piece of sea bass until it has this golden crust that you can see in this photo. So delicious. And he serves it over the black tie rice, which if you've not had this, it's like this kind of like sticky, nutty flavored rice that's so flavorful. And then it's all kind of tied together with a soy beurre blanc butter sauce. And again, pretty much 3 components make up this dish, but it is one of those things that is so wonderful. And again, a dish when I go to this restaurant that I order very often. Moving along, if you like crab, the next two dishes are going to be ones you're going to want to check out. Coastal Fish Company has my favorite crab cake in the city of Memphis. It is like all crab, very little binder. You can see from the picture that it is just like pieces of jumbo lump crab meat, kind of lightly held together. It's served with a stone ground mustard sauce that is actually, you think stone ground mustard, it might be strong flavored. It actually is kind of perfectly tempered and is a great complement to the crab cakes there. And one of the other things that I love about this dish is, as you can see in this photo, it has the corn. The corn is like a bruleed corn. So it's like cream of corn, like good old Southern cream of corn. And they kind of put, I guess, some sugar on top and brulee it and add this like crunch to it. And it is so decadently good. One of my things that I like to tell people about Coastal Fish Company, and I shouldn't tell it too much, I can't believe I'm going to give my secret away, is that make a reservation around sunset. So that I swear that restaurant has the most beautiful sunset view in the city of Memphis, because it's sitting there right on in Shelby Farms on the banks of Hyde Lake. And it is just a stunning sunset. So in the winter, that means you got to have dinner a little bit early. The early bird special, as I always call it, at like 5:30 or so. But in the winter, in the summer months, you can definitely do it later. But, I always try to plan my reservation there about 30 minutes before sunset, so that we can be enjoying a glass of wine and an appetizer as the sun is setting for one of the most beautiful views in the city of Memphis. Moving on, Dim Sum King. So this restaurant over on Summer Avenue is one of my favorite restaurants to go to with a group and do family style, because there's so many things on the menu and so much to choose from. It's much more fun to do it with these large plates that come family style, so you can try a little bit of everything. And the dish for them that I chose was their Hong Kong style crab. So this is a dish where they basically, it's very impressive when it comes to the table, but it is basically fried crab legs and pieces of crab, kind of tempura fried, and it's served with what they call their XO sauce, which is just this flavorful sauce that has a little bit of a kick, but not too much of a kick. And it's kind of garnished with things like jalapeno and some dried onion, and there are other kind of seasoning blends that they put on. And it's just really kind of a fun dish to share at the table. And one of the things that, they take their seafood very seriously at this particular Chinese restaurant. When you walk in the door, of course, the first thing you're going to see is a tank full of eels. I don't know if I'm going to be eating eel, but if you look along the other wall, there's an entire wall full of fresh seafood that is swimming around. So the crabs and the lobsters and the fish that you eat come from those tanks. So it is as fresh as you can get. And it is, as I said, this is a really fun restaurant to go. That would be a good Galentine's spot for Valentine's Day, but it would also be a fun thing to do with a bunch of your friends on an evening to go and share these dishes. And then last on my list is Biscuits and Jams. So if you've not been to this brunch spot in Bartlett, you need to check it out. It is such a great concept. Monique Williams is the chef and the owner, and it is all about breakfast, lunch, and brunch here. And she makes it fun. She makes her homemade biscuits, and then the jam, she also makes homemade jams, but they're also fun tunes playing. And she has one of my favorite breakfast dishes in town. This shrimp and crawfish Creole Benedict is just really, really sublime. The sauce with the crawfish and the shrimp is just, reminiscent of something you would have in New Orleans. It's super flavorful. But one of the things I really love about it is, instead of using the traditional English muffins for the Benedict, what she does is she makes a kind of like a cheddar grits cake. So it is like, almost like, think grits meets hash browns. So it's kind of like this crispy exterior and this soft interior. And then she puts this garlicky spinach on top, and then the egg, and then the sauce. And it's really yummy, yummy, yummy. And a shout out for Monique that she is about to open a second Biscuits and Jams downtown. It will be coming downtown probably later this spring, so be on the lookout for that. So those are 5 of my favorite ones that I picked. There are 5 more that you need to check out at commercialappeal.com when you're thinking about where you want to go for a delicious fish dish this time of year, during Lent, or any time of year.
Yes, I'm someone that loves fish. Growing up in South Florida, I love all seafood. And so I've only been to Coastal Fish and Tsunami there to get their fish dishes. So I'm excited to check out some more. And it's just, I can't wait to check out the other 5 on commercialappeal.com/food.
Yes, this was a fun one for me to do because I love all of these things. I just think that, yeah, fish any time of the year is a great thing, and Memphis restaurants do it really, really well. So think beyond the barbecue, and we're gonna make ourselves be known as the Fish City. How about that?
I love it. I love it. Jennifer Chandler, as always, thank you so much for all the insight into the best dishes in Memphis, and this time, the best fish dishes that we love. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The new year, of course, is a great time to have a little bit of a reset with your teen. It's a perfect time to really discuss and establish new behaviors and open the door to conversations about developing online positivity and positive online habits. There's some new and established tools as well as resources that parents right now can use to set boundaries with their teens on social media. Let's talk about that right now with Dr. Ann Louise Lockhart. She's a board-certified pediatric psychologist to join us now and talk about ways to make social media more positive in 2024 with your teens. Doctor, thank you for joining us. Tell us about where we should start with all this. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having me. So a big place to start, and I see this in my work with teenagers and with parents, is to have a collaborative conversation and discussion with your teen, because that way parents can better know their teen, what they're struggling with, what they're excited about, why they're online, why they like social media. And that way parents can make good informed decisions about having those discussions with their teenager. So it doesn't feel like they're in trouble because you're supervising them and their use online.
I love that idea. Dr. Lockhart, can we talk a little bit about the various tools that parents can use and that teens can use to manage their time online?
Yes, so Meta has over 30 tools, supervision tools for parents that are really amazing. One of the ones that I really like, and it's because I hear this a lot in my therapy sessions with teenagers, when they get the notifications, they're afraid of missing out, they're afraid of not responding right away to people, they think that they need to be in the know. And quiet mode on Instagram is a great tool because it allows the teen to set the quiet mode on Instagram so that they don't get notifications. The people that are sending them DMs are told, okay, this person is offline and they're in quiet mode right now. And so that way they can do the things that they need to get done. So that's a really great one. Another tool is a take a break reminder. So if the teen is scrolling for more than 10, 30 minutes, they're getting a reminder that, okay, it's time to take a break, and they can even get expert tools and tips on in terms of how to reset. So those are two of my most favorite ones. And then one other one as well is the time spent dashboard, which a lot of parents and myself, I love using this one as well, because it gives you information in terms of how much time you're actually spending on the app, so that you can look and see, that's why I've been unproductive, because look how much time I'm spending. So that time spent dashboard is a really great tool as well.
Okay, it sounds amazing that these tools have been developed for both teens and parents. Where can people go and get more information online and learn more about these tools?
Yes, so they can go to familycenter.meta.com to all the different Family Center tools, expert guidance, advice, and that way they can learn more about the app, how to use that, how to have discussions with their teenager about it, and then that way the parent can establish these supervision tools and look at when the teen can get online, when they should take a break, and they can learn those things together.
Fantastic. Dr. Ann Louise Lockhart, board certified pediatric psychologist. We appreciate you joining us and illuminating us to these new tools for both parents and teens when it comes to having a more positive outlook on social media in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
It is considered a serious public health threat. In fact, let me give you this number. 2022, okay, more than 2.5 million middle school and high school children reported e-cigarette use. 2.5 million, a higher number than in 2021. So what can be done to address all this? Let's talk about the youth vaping epidemic right now. I got two ladies who specialize in this problem, this epidemic. Amy Taylor, Sabrina Taylor. Let's talk about this problem, this epidemic. Let's identify it. Amy, let's start with you. How did we get to this point?
Thank you for having us. This continues to be a serious public health issue. As you said in the opening, 2.5 million high school and middle school students are vaping. What's of real concern is that about half of the high school students who are vaping are doing so on a near daily basis. It's a big issue.
Sabrina, what about you? Where do you stand in all this?
Well, actually, I work at a middle school. Again, thank you for having us. But working at a middle school, the epidemic is just as real. It's impacting our students mentally, socially, and also academically. So it is a real issue.
You know, I have two teenagers, and they're older teenagers. One's 18, one 19. And when they were in middle school, they told me, and even in high school, I have a senior right now, they know specific bathrooms where students go during classes and switch. And they know bathrooms where people use the vape because they can smell, you know, some of the sweet flavors, cotton candy, creme brulee, that sort of thing. It is an awful situation. It really just, my heart sinks every time I hear about it. What can we do when it comes to education? Amy, let's start with you. What resources are out there that we can turn this trend, this tide?
Yeah, I have 3 teenagers as well, and I've heard the exact same things. What we do know is that when young people have the facts, they're going to feel empowered and they're going to make informed decisions, which is why we are so excited about our free digital curriculum that's available to every school in the country. It's called Vaping Know the Truth, and it provides young people with the facts about how nicotine is dangerous for the developing brain. It talks about how vaping can impact your mental health. It can make you feel more anxious and depressed, which is certainly important as our youth are facing a mental health crisis right now. And lastly, for those young people who are vaping, we provide access to a free text-based program called This Is Quitting, which has helped more than 500,000 adolescents and young adults quit.
Sabrina, I know as a middle school teacher, you see this stuff firsthand, but I understand that you've been part of this curriculum, the Vaping Know the Truth curriculum. Tell me what kind of impact that has had with some of your students.
Thank you for that question. It's had a positive impact with my students because the students, when they know the facts, they do become more empowered. And they actually are coming to me with the curiosity and like, I really didn't notice about vaping. I really like Vaping Know the Truth because it's giving me information I didn't know about. So the impact is positive. Again, I believe information is positive. So I really am grateful for this resource. Vaping Know the Truth by the Truth Initiative is having a positive impact on my students.
For people that aren't familiar or that are, that aren't familiar with that curriculum, can you briefly tell us about it?
Absolutely. So it is a 4-module program, completely digital, and it is a peer-led discussion. We know that young people are going to take the messages better from other young people. And so our curriculum is not judgy. It's not finger wagging. It really is about providing young people with the information and the tools to give them, to help them make informed choices. And it's also a curriculum that's very easy for teachers to use. They introduce the topic and they let young people engage with it on their own time.
Okay, before we let you go, ladies, I just want to ask, and we'll start with you, Sabrina. Tell me where we can go when it comes to more information, and what would you say to other teachers out there that are perhaps watching this?
Well, just reiterating again, thank you for having us. I went through EverFi and is provided by the Truth Initiative. Vaping Know the Truth, but I do know that Amy has more additional information and resources that can really help teachers, because when you have a free resource, it is just so impactful that you have it readily available for our students to engage in that curriculum to get the facts.
We've had more than 600,000 high school students and middle school students use the curriculum so far. And to get more information about Vaping Know the Truth and our text-based quit program called This Is Quitting, go to truthinitiative.org.
Okay, ladies, well, listen, I can't thank you enough for talking about this very serious, very important issue. Amy Taylor and Sabrina Taylor, thanks very much helping us get the word out. We appreciate you, and good luck helping get the word out throughout the year in 2023. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Another gorgeous day, but of course this morning started out pretty chilly across the Mid-South. But I tell you what, if you like a warmer trend, I think we have that in the extended forecast. Even today, comparatively to what we have seen the last couple of days, of course, Saturday being in the upper 30s for highs, near 50 yesterday. We'll make a run for the middle and upper 50s today. Fair amount of sunshine. There will be a few more clouds building into the skies late today, but otherwise, again, you got good weather to contend with here on this President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off. Schools are out in a lot of instances, and I would say if you got some time, maybe just go out and enjoy this beautiful weather. And I think we have a couple more days of beautiful weather on the way across the Mid-South. So if you're a fan of milder temperatures, we keep it going here. 64 tomorrow, not bad. Near 70 coming up on Wednesday. Upper 60s by Thursday as our next system starts to roll in here. Look out to the west of us, though, closing in on 80 degrees, Dallas and Fort Worth. Even Jackson, Mississippi in the mid-70s this upcoming week. Kansas City, Missouri near 70 on Wednesday before that next system comes down the pipeline, of course, wrapping in some cooler air. That next system does bring us a chance for some rain by Thursday. We'll call it about 40 to 50% opportunity for scattered showers. I think in the morning we're dry, but the afternoon we may turn a little bit wetter as our next system comes down the pipeline. A chance for a couple of passing showers in eastern Arkansas early on Thursday morning, giving you a first alert to that. But during the course of the day, the rain chances will begin to increase. So be prepared for some rain. Few rumbles of thunder, not looking like severe weather. So let's hope that that continues to be the case here with this next system coming down the pipeline. That system comes rolling through. Behind that, quickly we clear things out. So sunshine to return as we head towards your Friday, and slightly cooler air moving in behind that system as high pressure builds in the wake of it heading into the end of the week. But a general rule here, and I say a general rule because it's not all going to be a one-size-fits-all situation, because when you look at these temperature outlooks, it is very broad-brushed. Yes, generally warmer than average in the next 6 to 10 days. But like I said, there's a little hiccup there. That hiccup comes by way of, yes, that opportunity for rain. They'll knock our numbers back a little bit. It's not terrible, though, and it won't be to what we saw this past weekend. Average high 57, average low 38, so anything above that, you got warmer than average temperatures. And notice on the 7-day forecast, just the next 7 days, we're generally above that level. Today, we're right on par for average, a little bit above average for your Tuesday, well above average coming up on Wednesday. You'll also notice the winds picking up through Wednesday into Thursday out of the south. That's going to help to bolster the milder air, the muggier air. Some gusts around 30 miles per hour come Wednesday. Near 70 the high. Here comes middle and upper 60s on Thursday. I don't think we're talking, again, an all-day rain, but majority of the afternoon is probably going to turn wet for some of us. And then most of the rain will start to taper off after midnight or by midnight on Thursday before we get a little cooler. High near 60 coming up on Friday. We'll call it upper 50s to near 60. Lower to middle 60s coming up on Saturday. And a rebound to near 70 degrees yet again by Sunday. Now keep in mind, in the extended range, if you look at the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, you can download that in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. You got the 10-day forecast there. That roll of the 70s probably continues into early next week. Now, I will caution you, and I will tell you from experience, when you have a long stretch like this time of the year where temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average on a general basis for a long period of time, there's got to be something that's going to knock you back to normal, get you back to a sensible level of where you should be for this time of the year. And usually Mother Nature has a way to do that. It's usually a strong storm system. This week, this system coming through here, not super strong. Yeah, we'll watch it closely, but this isn't the one. There might be one in the extended range. I'd say probably with the next week or two that we could see a system that could roll through here that could be a little bit more robust to bring down our temperatures, and we'll have kind of a reassuring shot of, yes, by the way, it's still winter. Maybe not to the same extent as what we just dealt with this past weekend. Oh, even that was a brief shot. But there may be some type of something to come through here to bring you back to a reality that we are still in the latter half of February, early portions of March when you get to the extended 10 to 14-day forecast. Of course, you can look at the 10-day forecast, like I said, on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, and we'll be the first to alert you of any changes moving forward.
All right, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. We know that temperatures are going to be heating up once again here in Memphis and the Mid-South. Summer, it's just a few weeks away. It starts next month. And, you know, when we're dealing with summer, we like to be outside. We like to do fun activities. Well, here's the thing, though. We're going to be out in the sun, and all that extra time out in the sun, that can lead to some problems like skin cancer, melanoma. So right now, we are joined by Dr. Martin Fleming. He is the Division Chief for Surgical Oncology at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center to talk about the best ways to protect our skin. Dr. Fleming, good morning to you. I appreciate you joining us. How dangerous are the sun's rays?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Well, as you said, we all like to get outside and have fun, and this is the time of year to do it as we gear up our spring and summer. But the sun can cause significant damage to your skin over time. And some of the problems it causes, some minor skin cancers are really more nuisances than life-threatening issues. But others like melanoma can truly be life-threatening, and 10 to 12,000 people a year in the United States die of melanoma. So it's not an insignificant problem, and it's something to really be mindful of.
Yeah, I remember talking with a dermatologist a number of years ago and an oncologist, and they told me the exact same thing. People don't realize how deadly melanoma can be. Let's talk a little bit about how skin cancer can affect the body overall.
Sure. The skin is, we say, the largest organ of your body. It really is when you think of the surface area of the total body. And as styles have changed and activities have changed, styles being clothing styles have changed, the skin is more and more exposed to the sun than it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And then in this part of the country, in the Mid-South, there's a very large population of historically Scotch-Irish people with very fair complexions that migrated to the United States, immigrated to the United States, and migrated into the Deep South in the 1800s and became farmers. So we have a big population of people with skin that wasn't intended to be exposed to this kind of sun, who are over years getting a cumulative exposure that can cause some significant damage.
I know that there are certain types of skin cancer that are, I guess, more deadlier than others. Can you go through the basic types of skin cancer and who is most at risk?
Sure. Starting with the different types, the most common type of skin cancer that we encounter is basal cell carcinoma. Basal cell carcinoma is very frequent. Every dermatologist in the country takes care of them on a regular basis. They are often in older folks that have had a lot of sun exposure over time, and often on the face and forehead and scalp of people with a lot of sun exposure. They don't spread, with rare exceptions. They're a local nuisance that needs to be dealt with. They are cancers and they need to be removed. And if left untreated, they can become massive in size and a huge problem. But at their initial stages, they're very small and just need to be removed. The next is squamous cell carcinoma. It is also not very aggressive, usually also in a small office procedure, but there's a small, about 10% subset of those that actually can be very aggressive and spread to lymph nodes and cause life-threatening problems. But in general, basal cells and squamous cells are less concerning. Then less common, but much more aggressive, are something called Merkel cell carcinoma, which is very rare, but we see plenty of it because of sun exposure, and then melanoma, which is actually much more frequent than people might realize. Melanoma is, if found very, very early, is very curable, very treatable, and a procedure that's larger than an office procedure usually, but certainly an outpatient surgery that can take care of the situation permanently. If not treated, though, and progressing over time, it can spread rapidly and wildly throughout the body and become a life-threatening problem. So the people most at risk for all these types of skin cancers are the people with the most sun exposure over a long period of time. It's not a sunburn that you got 2 weeks ago or even last summer. It's sun exposure from a very early age. I grew up here in Memphis, and I mean, we didn't even know what sunscreen was when I was a kid. And sunscreen for me was a t-shirt. If you got too much sun, you just put on a t-shirt. But that kind of exposure over time, especially people with fair complexions, classically people with blue eyes or green eyes, red or auburn hair, blonde hair, and more than one significant sunburn as a child. I see patients and they usually can tell me a story of some time when they had a sunburn that was bad enough that they were truly sick. They were in bed with blisters and feeling bad for several days. That type of sunburn is at an early age really sets people up for problems in the future. And so it really becomes a situation where vigilance and surveillance is the way to take care of it. We can't prevent them from happening from something that, sun exposure 30 years ago, but we know that if we find them early and we take care of them, they're definitely curable and treatable.
What about the symptoms? I've always heard that if you have a mole that's kind of growing, to maybe get it checked out by a dermatologist. Give me some ideas, some symptoms for folks.
Yeah. The things we see that melanoma can start from nothing, or it can be a mole or a freckle that starts to change over time. So some guidelines we tell people that are pretty easy to remember, and it's a rubric on purpose. The letter A stands for asymmetry. So if you have something that's not round or oval, but kind of a strange shape, sometimes going out in more than one dimension in a weird way. B is for border irregularity, meaning the edge of the pigmented lesion doesn't stop cleanly. It kind of feathers out and disappears into the normal looking skin. C is for color variation. If you have a lesion that has brown and black and sometimes even blue and red kind of mixed in it, that's a hint that something's going on. And then D is for diameter. And we usually use about a 5 millimeter diameter to start being concerned. 5 millimeters, I tell people, is about the size of a pencil eraser. So if you use that as kind of a size judgment. And then E is the one that's a little more nebulous, but I think it's helpful, is evolution, meaning it's changing over time. So no one thing that I've mentioned is a cause for concern necessarily. A lot of moles and freckles change over time. As children grow up, they sometimes get bigger. As we get older, we get new, pigmented areas and age spots, as we call them, and freckles from the sun. Those are okay. But if you start to see a lesion that's doing those things I described and looks that way, it's certainly important to just get it biopsied or get it removed. That takes 5 minutes in the office, and then the problem is either evaluated so we know what we're dealing with, or gone so you don't have to worry about it anymore. So those A, B, C, D, E is a great way to remember.
I got you. Okay, so now let's talk about ways to protect our skin this summer. I guess it starts with sunscreen SPF 30, right?
Well, yes, we can start there. I personally wear SPF 100. I really do. I don't want or need any more sun. And so when I get outside, I put on SPF 100. I actually do some volunteer surgery work in other parts of the world, and I'm sometimes at the equator, and I don't have the skin for equator sun. And so I wear SPF 100, and I come home with virtually no sun exposure at all. So it works. So sunscreen is really important. The other things you can do that are tangible that don't involve sunscreen is just being conscious of the sun. If you're at the beach, don't go out between noon and 3 or 10 and 2, we sometimes say. Use those hottest parts of the days to do something indoors. If you are at the beach, under the umbrella is great. You can still be out there. You can be part of it. There are some clothings that even have SPF built into them to protect you from the sun. Hats especially are great. And I tell people get hats with a brim on them. Otherwise, the back of your neck and the top of your ears are still going to get a lot of sun. So those are the kind of things that are just kind of common sense, easy things to do that allow you to be out, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the sunshine, and not put yourself at risk. I'm a big advocate, especially when people have had a melanoma, they feel like they have to live in a cave. And I say, no, you don't. Go do the things you enjoy and live your life, but just be conscious of what the risks are and what sun exposure means, and make those interventions as you can.
We've talked about a lot, Dr. Fleming, with regards to protection, the problems, perhaps some solutions. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go? It's been very interesting and I know helpful to our viewers. Thousands, by the way, join us here on the Digital Desk.
Well, I'm happy to be here and happy to answer questions. And I would just say, if you have a concern, go see somebody. Don't feel like it's too small or too insignificant to have a lesion, a mole, or freckle evaluated. If you see something changing, go see somebody. If you have any concerns, go see your doctor. That's what we're here for. And if it's nothing to worry about, then you can go home, comfortable that you've had it evaluated. Regular surveillance is very important. And if you're somebody that has had a sun exposure, even if you've never had skin cancer, but you know in your life growing up, you had significant sun exposure, I would say, get a good dermatologist and go once a year, just once a year, to let them look you over. If things evolve so that you have a skin cancer problem, then they're going to want to see you more frequently. But just for surveillance with everything being okay, once a year trip is just like a checkup to your regular doctor. And it really is helpful, and because intervention is all about, surveillance and finding things early.
Okay, Dr. Martin Fleming, the surgical oncologist, division chief at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center. We really appreciate you. I know you also work at Regional One Health. Thanks very much for taking a few minutes and talking with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Sure, happy to do it. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Preterm birth rates, they remain alarmingly high in this country. They've only improved 1% from 2022. That's according to the latest study. In fact, it's one of the leading causes of infant death in the U.S. and across the globe. Let's bring in someone to talk more about this issue. March of Dimes President and CEO, Dr. Elizabeth Scherow, joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Thank you so much for being here. So tell me what the biggest concern that you see when it comes to these alarming rates of preterm birth rates.
First of all, thank you for having me. This is a report card the March of Dimes puts out every year. It is a benchmark, just like you get when you get your child's report card. Gives a state of where we are, and we're not in a good place. Specifically, the country really has had a flat preterm birth rate and very little improvement. Specifically in Memphis, in fact, you're getting an F. Hard to tell someone they're failing. But we are at 12.9%. And so the preterm birth rate, if 1 in 10 babies is born prematurely, that baby has a lifetime of issues and in fact cannot make it to their first birthday. And that's where infant mortality, that's where what impacts infant mortality the most. And we know that access to care and other programs can make a big difference.
Yeah, Memphis unfortunately seems to always lead the charge in terms of infant mortality. It's an awful situation, and we tend to be at the forefront of it. Can you talk about ways to maybe bring down or at least improve these numbers?
Yeah, so infant mortality specifically, and morbidity and mortality, they're intertwined. So if you think about it, if we could get access to care for moms, we could impact that preterm birth, because really prenatal care is prevention at its best, and it manages everything from hypertension to diabetes, other chronic conditions, weight gain or smoking. These are all things that contribute to preterm birth. So just getting access to care is one thing, And really, if we want to combat this, when it starts to look at the health equity gap, we know that Black and brown moms have a worse rate as well, that those are the moms we need to get to the most.
How did the pandemic affect preterm birth rates?
Yeah, it's a great question. What you'll see is that preterm births sort of, followed the pandemic, whether it was a variant or whether it was vaccine uptake. We've seen data out recently that shows that actually, if you got the vaccine, that actually prevented preterm birth. And so we know that COVID contributed quite, just like everybody, right? Those first 2 years were quite bad. And then as we saw the variants change, we also saw that preterm birth started to change. But really what's sort of scary is the infant mortality rate is the highest we've seen in 20 years. So that's a window into our healthcare system. As an industrialized nation, we should be shamed. We've got to do a lot better. Other countries have poverty. Other countries don't have vaccine or the investment in their healthcare. We've got to shift this to make moms and babies the focus.
Dr. Cherot, can you tell us?
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Another gorgeous day, but of course this morning started out pretty chilly across the Mid-South. But I tell you what, if you like a warmer trend, I think we have that in the extended forecast. Even today, comparatively to what we have seen the last couple of days, of course, Saturday being in the upper 30s for highs, near 50 yesterday. We'll make a run for the middle and upper 50s today. Fair amount of sunshine. There will be a few more clouds building into the skies late today, but otherwise, again, you got good weather to contend with here on this President's Day. A lot of folks have the day off. Schools are out in a lot of instances, and I would say if you got some time, maybe just go out and enjoy this beautiful weather. And I think we have a couple more days of beautiful weather on the way across the Mid-South. So if you're a fan of milder temperatures, we keep it going here. 64 tomorrow, not bad. Near 70 coming up on Wednesday. Upper 60s by Thursday as our next system starts to roll in here. Look out to the west of us, though, closing in on 80 degrees, Dallas and Fort Worth. Even Jackson, Mississippi in the mid-70s this upcoming week. Kansas City, Missouri near 70 on Wednesday before that next system comes down the pipeline, of course, wrapping in some cooler air. That next system does bring us a chance for some rain by Thursday. We'll call it about 40 to 50% opportunity for scattered showers. I think in the morning we're dry, but the afternoon we may turn a little bit wetter as our next system comes down the pipeline. A chance for a couple of passing showers in eastern Arkansas early on Thursday morning, giving you a first alert to that. But during the course of the day, the rain chances will begin to increase. So be prepared for some rain. A few rumbles of thunder, not looking like severe weather. So let's hope that that continues to be the case here with this next system coming down the pipeline. That system comes rolling through. Behind that, quickly we clear things out. So sunshine to return as we head towards your Friday, and slightly cooler air moving in behind that system as high pressure builds in the wake of it heading into the end of the week. But a general rule here, and I say a general rule because it's not all going to be a one-size-fits-all situation, because when you look at these temperature outlooks, it is very broad-brushed. Yes, generally warmer than average in the next 6 to 10 days. But like I said, there's a little hiccup there. That hiccup comes by way of, yes, that opportunity for rain. They'll knock our numbers back a little bit. It's not terrible, though, and it won't be to what we saw this past weekend. Average high 57, average low 38. So anything above that, you got warmer than average temperatures. And notice on the 7-day forecast, just the next 7 days, we're generally above that level. Today, we're right on par for average. a little bit above average for your Tuesday, well above average coming up on Wednesday. You'll also notice the winds picking up through Wednesday into Thursday out of the south. That's going to help to bolster the milder air, the muggier air. Some gusts around 30 miles per hour come Wednesday. Near 70 the high. Here comes middle and upper 60s on Thursday. I don't think we're talking, again, an all-day rain, but majority of the afternoon is probably going to turn wet for some of us. And then most of the rain will start to taper off after midnight or by midnight on Thursday before we get a little cooler. High near 60 coming up on Friday. We'll call it upper 50s to near 60. Lower to middle 60s coming up on Saturday. And a rebound to near 70 degrees yet again by Sunday. Now keep in mind, in the extended range, if you look at the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app, you can download that in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. You got the 10-day forecast there. That roll of the 70s probably continues into early next week. Now, I will caution you, and I will tell you from experience, when you have a long stretch like this time of the year where temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average on a general basis for a long period of time, there's got to be something that's going to knock you back to normal, get you back to a sensible level of where you should be for this time of the year. And usually Mother Nature has a way to do that. It's usually a strong storm system. This week, this system coming through here, not super strong. Yeah, we'll watch it closely, but this isn't the one. There might be one in the extended range. I'd say probably within the next week or two that we could see a system that could roll through here that could be a little bit more robust to bring down our temperatures, and we'll have kind of a reassuring shot of, yes, by the way, it's still winter. Maybe not to the same extent as what we just dealt with this past weekend. Oh, even that was a brief shot. But there may be some type of something to come through here to bring you back to a reality that we are still in the latter half of February, early portions of March when you get to the extended 10 to 14-day forecast. Of course, you can look at the 10-day forecast, like I said, on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. And we'll be the first to alert you of any changes moving forward.
You can watch us on Action News 5 Plus and also on 907 on Xfinity. Have a great day.